monitoring the situation. During their patrols, they have arrested 3 foreign nationals who were found in possession of unlicensed firearm.
Meanwhile, residents of Zitobeni in Bronkhorstspruit in the east of Pretoria have taken to the streets and are looting spaza shops belonging to foreign nationals. This comes after 25 learners from Mshuluzane Maisela Primary in Zitobeni fell ill after consuming snacks allegedly purchased from a street vendor outside the school. Nonhlanhla Njengila is there.
Angry Zitobeni residents have gone on a rampage and are looting shops belonging to foreign nationals. They are removing snacks from the shops which they believe caused the children's illness. The looted snacks are being publicly burned outside the stores, symbolizing the community's frustrations and demand for accountability. Police have been deployed to the township to quell the situation. Nonhlanhla Njengila for SABC News, Zitobeni in Bronkhorstspruit.
4 members of the Manqoba Seven Angels Ministries Church in the Eastern Cape have been sentenced to life imprisonment. They were sentenced in the Mthatha High Court yesterday. They were involved in the murder of 5 police officers during an attack on the Ngobo police station in 2018, where they took at least 10 firearms and ammunition. Olwethu Matsipane reports.
A crime that shocked the quiet Eastern Cape town to its core. It also brought about changes in safety features at the police station. The police also raided the Manqoba Seven Angels Ministries, and the shootout left 7 of the suspected robbers dead. The compound was also closed down. The sentencing comes more than 6 years after the crime was committed. One of the gang members, Sipesihle Tansi, was sentenced last year to a maximum of 18 years in prison after he pleaded guilty to the murders.
And the Iranian ambassador to South Africa, Mansour Shakib Meher, says Iran has the capacity to defend itself. Speaking to our news desk after meeting with the ANC's International Relations Subcommittee, Shakib Meher thanked the South African government for supporting Palestine. Speaking through an interpreter, he said Iran wants to avoid the expansion of war in the Middle East.
He explained Iran's stance and position about the current developments in the Middle East region, and we told them that while Iran actually has the power and has the right to answer militarily towards the attacks that happens towards Iran, but we do not want to, expand the war to other parts in the Middle East.
The top story at 3 o'clock, President Cyril Ramaphosa says the UN Security Council in its current form has failed to implement its charter mandate due to narrow national interests. For SAFM News, Gemudupi Makhalemeli.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Mackenzie defends Paris Olympic costs, Proteas women set for T20 World Cup semi-final, and England star to miss Bach clash. More details at 3:30.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Rockets say before the sun sets in Mpumalanga, they will march out of the battlefield with a VIP access to the quarterfinals. However, the Chili Boys are not shaken. They want joy for the Eastern Cape citizens. This is the second edition of the Carlin Knockout Cup Round of 16. Fagukesi! Catch TS Galaxy FC versus Chipa United FC this Sunday, 20 October at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
And welcome indeed to the Thursday edition of the National Pulse. Great talking to you. And one of the features today would be that the South African cricket team, the women's cricket team, are playing in a World Cup semi-final that starts at 4 p.m. So amongst many of the other issues, rest assured, we would certainly update you on that semi-final against Australia regularly. It's almost like cricket versus Australia. Rugby, it's the Box against the All Blacks. Something along that line, isn't it? And I hope we can get through that hurdle today, that final, 4 o'clock in Dubai. But by the way, this is an issue. You know, we spoke about the issue of immigrants the other day and about undocumented foreign nationals. And I just want to make my point here, right? I'm not even discussing whether foreign nationals who are undocumented should be allowed in the country. I think that's a given. We know the answer. But I am looking at a broader issue. If you look at so many countries of the world that have risen from the ashes, let's start with the USA, for example, and current day Great Britain, that then collapsed, I think, for a long period, had economic depression in terms of where they are now, and then many other countries in Europe as well, right? And South Africa to a large degree, right? I think we mustn't discount the valuable and invaluable role that foreign nationals play in contributing to a country, whatever the reasons that they have for coming to a country. And people have different reasons for coming. You know, it can be asylum, it can be they want to run away from their families, it could be they completely broke and they want to seek better fortune elsewhere, it could be war, it could be whatever reason. But when foreign nationals and immigrants in this case, when they come to a country, inevitably they do contribute, if it's managed properly, they do contribute big time to the overall diversity of a country, and that diversity lends to a very, very innovative growth surge in a country. So I'm just putting it out there, outside the issues of documentation, that don't discount the valuable role of the diversity of foreign nationals in any country in the world, in fact, and certainly that applies to this country as well. Right, let's get to some of the big issues we're going to talk about today. The Zimbabwean government has announced it will compensate local and foreign white farmers who lost land under Mugabe. We'll talk about that just now. But for now, let's get to an issue that I'm sure we'll get you and I thinking about it. There's been this big issue about the renaming of Sandton Drive, right? From current Sandton Drive to the Leila Khalid Drive, and that would be a street, a very significant street in Johannesburg, around the Sandton precinct area. The plan is to have that street changed, name changed, after a former Palestinian militant activist who took up a strong position in terms of the armed struggle on behalf of the Palestinian Liberation Movement at that time, the PLO, right? So that's the plan. There's been petitions put forward up till 2 days ago. But yesterday, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gayton McKenzie, he spoke about this issue, and what he said was really interesting in Parliament, okay, because he was reacting to a complaint from a member of the DA who spoke about what they called unlawful name changes in the Free State. But he then spoke about this. He said, "You must be honest. You must not do it out of revenge. You must not want to hurt people." He then said they just wanted to hurt the white minority in that town. They never spoke to anybody, and they never asked them how they feel. I sent it back. I think in this case, he was referring specifically to the Free State. But it does get you to think about this. He also said that white people in South Africa had to understand that some names had to change because of the country's troubled history. White people, and I'm quoting McKenzie, saying, white people need to understand that some names will have to change. Black people need to understand it should be done in a way that is not revengeful. So here's the thought, okay? There's always going to be issues of name changes, right? But do you think we go about it the right way in South Africa? And do you think, as Gayton McKenzie has suggested, that some of the name changes are revengeful as opposed to forward-thinking, advanced, moving ahead with the times. There are many cities in the world, countries that have had their names changed for that reasons, and therefore streets as well. What do you make of that? Let's get your thoughts. Later on, you can call into 086 000 2032 and to WhatsApp in voice or text note form 0614 104 107. And where are you now? Where are you driving to? What are you doing? Or whether you're sitting put at home or at the office, I want to know. You can text me as well, and as always, send a picture with your dial locked onto SAFM. Jackie Shandu will comment on the discussion around name changes. Jackie Shandu is a political analyst. Appreciate your time. You're connected now to the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners of SAFM, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, first things first, what do you make of that quote that I've just read out loud from the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gayton McKenzie?
It's unfortunate. It's coarse, it's crass, it lacks historical consciousness, it lacks consciousness of the great need to transform this country, to make this country's streets and cities and town reflect not only the demographics of the country, but also where the country is heading. It's very reckless for a minister without any evidence to suggest that such things are done primarily to hurt the feelings of white people.
Is that the part you're picking up more than anything else when he spoke about that name changes can't be done as a form of revenge? Is that the part you're looking at?
I'm looking at that simply because we must not feed into the dominant reality of sheer white narcissism in South Africa. It's not always about white people. It's not always about white feelings. I think we need to get that out of the equation, and it's part of the conditioning in a country anchored on white privilege and white domination. And it's something that we need to be conscious about confronting and not playing according to its dictates. The need for street name changes, as well as the changing of many other things, part of the iconography of this country, is premised, one, on the very unfortunate history that we know. Two, it's premised on the future that we are trying to forge. It is not informed by malice or wanting to hurt anybody. South Africa is not a white colony. It's a 90% strong black majority country to begin with. So I don't even know how this conversation arises and how it becomes centered around white people. And quite frankly, that is disturbing.
So why do you think someone like Gayton McKenzie, who's an MP, effectively representing the entire country, would see fit to center his response on the basis of how white people will interpret it as opposed to how South Africans should interpret it?
That's how low the bar is in politics, particularly with the advent of this so-called GNU. Straight from jail to parliament, to the cabinet, without any intervening period of really, remorse and knowledge and understanding. That's just how weak our political system is. We don't have, we don't gravitate towards people of gravitas, people of honor and integrity. And I'm not just picking on Mr. McKenzie himself. There's a wide variety of people of questionable ethics and morals in that parliament. Unfortunately, that's not part of the test for anybody's before they become eligible to become an MP, to become a mayor, to become a minister. You can be a well-known scoundrel of questionable morals and principles, but the system, as it operates in this country, will still allow you to go and even attain the highest office in the land.
Okay.
Unfortunately, perhaps that's the broader conversation to have.
Well, it would be a broader one, and we'll set that aside for another time. Let's go back then to the issues of name change. When do you think it is appropriate as a country to consider name changes, and when do you think it's inappropriate? I'm not even discussing which name. I'm just talking about the broad principle.
Yes. I do think that there are names that are completely offensive, that there can be no debate about it. You can't have a name called Verwoerd, for that matter, or many other names, that are just offensive for known, obvious reasons. There should be no discussion about that. Secondly, I think for me, the most important consideration when it comes to name changes should be what the current name carries, embodies, and reflects, the one that ought to be changed. So we must have some sort of general consensus that this name does not fit in with where we are and where we are trying to go. I think that would be the first thing to consider. Of course, the next thing to consider would be whatever name is proposed also must fit in with the values, the principles, the aspirations of the country that you are trying to build. Or perhaps sometimes it must also be somewhat linked to the history of the person after whom it is to be renamed, has made a significant, notable contribution in that city, in that town, in that province, which is why proper public consultation is important, right? Because
interesting on the issue of significant contribution to a city or a town. So what do you then make of the position of an ANC-led proposal in the Greater Johannesburg area, in the Sandton region, to rename Sandton Drive, a very popular street, after Leila Khalid, who's former Palestinian liberation fighter from many years ago? What do you make of that?
By and large, the struggle of the Palestinian people is a struggle of particularly black people in South Africa, but broadly all progressive South Africans. It's a struggle that resonates so deeply. There's a very shared history between oppressed, and in fact, that is why the Palestinian question is often framed around Israeli apartheid, because in so many ways it mirrors what, in particular, black people have gone through in this country.
Okay, but if they did that, then wouldn't that the logical one be maybe Yasser Arafat Drive, for example, compared to Leila Khalid Drive?
Well, I'm sure I was going to mention, of course, Arafat, especially. I mean, take it back to the old relations between the PLO and the ANC, particularly him and Nelson Mandela. But I think, by and large, that is the logic, and there are many heroes and heroines of the Palestinian struggles that could have been and can be considered without necessarily always reducing it to big men or big women.
Fair enough.
Sometimes it's
right. Let me push you on this very quickly, because we're just running out of time. What about those that say, acknowledge shared heroes like South Africa and Palestine? We acknowledge that, but why do you have to name a street after a certain person when there are so many other South African heroes who don't have streets named after them? For example, why would you then name somebody else? Maybe just give them a placard, give them a plate somewhere in a conspicuous area. Why an entire street?
Right. Look, that is where I am very sympathetic to their argument. I am a big critic, especially when it comes to name changes, whether it's airport, bridges, or roads, that the ANC has been so myopic, and that is why you've had so many streets or airports being named after one and the same people. Seemingly their pool is so small, they only consider their own people. If it's outside the ANC, there are many heroes from the PAC, from Azapo, from many other liberation struggles. The UDF also did produce some people who were fighting against the apartheid movement. One can go on and on.
Okay.
So broadly speaking, I think the ANC has not done well when it comes to being fair in terms of which heroes and heroines to consider,
and that's
who have made a monumental contribution.
That's where Jackie Shando appreciate your time. Lots to consider there, right?
Of a multinational corporation is driving home with his daughter.
Dad,
Why is the Tooth Fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Susampa on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
My name's Michael Fontaine. I'm 16. I have difficulty paying attention in class, so I fell behind. That's why my parents moved me to UCT Online High School. I can't thank them enough. Their flexible learning means I can take classes when it suits me, so I get ahead and stay ahead. Visit uctonlinehigh.com to learn more. Applications close 29 November 2024.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices are making our kids sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, leading to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they get older. We need to protect our kids from all sugary drinks. Demand a stronger health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on heala.org. That's HEALA.org.
Muvhango returns for an explosive new season on SABC2. A renaissance of new beginnings, intrigue, and drama with old enemies and new characters. Catch the rebirth season of Muvhango every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. on SABC2 or stream it on SABC Plus. Muvhango, ukovela phanda. SABC2.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, so two things I've covered. One is the issue of immigrants, and I'm saying how valuable and invaluable they can be to a country when dealt with correctly. The other is a conversation we just had about name changes and specifically the issue of Leila Khalid, but not just that. The broader issue of when is a name change a good thing and when is a name change not a good thing. Picking up Gayton McKenzie's comments that street names should not be changed with the intention to hurt white people. Right, what's your comment? Text, voice notes, 0614 104 107. Let's get to Global Watch, which I can tell you now is another big issue you would reflect on. I have no doubt about that. The Zimbabwean government has announced that it will compensate local and foreign white farmers who lost land under former President Robert Mugabe's chaotic redistribution program in the year 2000. Now, the move has attracted widespread criticism, especially because some who were politically connected became owners of multiple farms under the land redistribution that was meant to help the poor, and, well, they can now cash in. Okay, are you all confused? I am, maybe. You should, let's get some help. Professor David Moore with me, who's a retired political historian from UJ and author of Mugabe's Legacy, Coups, Conspiracies, and the Conceits of Power in Zimbabwe. I need to get that book, Prof. David Moore. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ashraf.
Thank you. Right, what's your initial reaction or immediate reaction to this story of a different form of compensation now?
Well, when I heard the news on the radio, I thought, who's going to believe this promise? It was made yesterday, apparently, at a meeting of development partners. Various people I know in Zimbabwe have said, well, this is part of Zimbabwe's efforts to get back into the Commonwealth. I think it's an ongoing problem. I remember back in 2020 when I was just finishing the book that you mentioned, I heard on your opposition radio station an interview with the president's spokesperson, and they were trying to compensate farmers again with a sort of deal that they were going to make with one of the cabals, and some sort of promises of money from mines or something that would come through. And the president's advisor, George Charamba, said, well, you know, if farmers don't want to, if funds are short, we can just take over the new farmers' lands. You know, some of the lands you were talking about that have been redistributed to a mix of small farmers and big farmers, not all big farmers. But they're struggling. Anyway, so Charamba says, well, if we have farmers who aren't productive, we can just throw them off. And the 702 interviewer said, well, isn't this is not a very nice thing to do about people, and Western governments are interested in human rights. And Chirema said, well, the West isn't concerned with human rights. Look at China and Saudi Arabia.
Well, it's an interesting point. So therefore, if I can push you because of time, so what do you think of the principle here of initially farmers, white farmers, effectively thrown off the land and they're given to new black owners, and now they're saying, holy, these farmers can get a form of compensation, right? Money in some cases and other sovereign funding, but either way, they're going to get compensation. What do you feel about the principle of the compensation?
Well, whatever you think, the land was taken during colonial times, just like much of it was here. It's that long-running problem. The land is not owned by new farmers. It's on leases, and they can be taken back. So the government hasn't quite given them tenure. This is a big issue, of course. But I think in general, whether it's the morality, of course, is different if you're thinking about private property and capitalism and so on, and property rights versus historical injustice. And also versus if the government is actually capable of doing things like this.
Well, okay, maybe less about the capability at the moment. We'll see when that happens, right? But does this, compensation now to the white farmers, is the signal of intent here to say, hold it, we committed an injustice against you? Does that come across?
Probably not, but they need to do this in order to get back on track with IMF money that they owe. I think they owe, you're talking about around $20 billion in debts that they've accumulated since 1999 when they took the land. And, the IMF said, well, we're not going to give you any more. Partly of that was due to Zimbabwe's involvement in the wars in the DRC. So this is it's been ongoing for a long time. 2008, 2013. I think 2013, before the election, South Africa was going to even organize something. But it's a constant effort to say we will pay you back, and this has to be done. Actually, it's kind of like that. It would indicate a real move, a real moral commitment to paying back.
All right, here's the last thing then. You speak about the IMF effectively wagging their tail to say, hold it, we won't do business with you if you don't compensate the farmers. Now, just as we get onto news time, the last comment therefore, what do you feel about the principle of that, where there's pressure from a global entity that has huge economic muscle to say, we will only raise you from your own debt problems if you do as we tell you? What do you feel about that?
It's the way of the world. I have lots of problems with the IMF and so on, but I also have lots of problems with the Zimbabwean government. So it's the way of the world. I think there are a lot. If you look, for example, what the EU is doing in the EU Investment Bank, just at that same meeting yesterday, the EU guy was saying, look, we've got $80 million we can distribute to you, but let's get an act together. Let's cooperate on this, which hasn't happened, So there's kind of a lot of semi-goodwill out there to get Zimbabwe back on the track. And the opposition hasn't done a good job of winning elections. Well, there's a lot of violence.
They may say they can't. Okay, yes. Let's leave it at that. We need to get to Newstown. Prof. David Moore, we need to get to Newstown. Appreciate your input, but we need to get your book, of course, which is called Mugabe's Legacy, Coups, Conspiracies, and the Conceits of Power in Zimbabwe. And the focus for me is the word conceits. Okay, there we are. Prof. David Moore, from retired political historian from UJ. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Majupi.
Thank you very much, Mr. G, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines this hour, President Cyril Ramaphosa says the UN Security Council in its current form has failed to implement its charter mandate due to narrow national interests. Police have been deployed to Sharpeville in the Vaal after a businessman was fatally shot and shops belonging to foreign nationals looted. And in KZN, police have raided several shops alleged to be selling counterfeit goods at South Beach in the Durban CBD. And those are your headlines. A full news update, 4 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Eskom Pahleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Moot Street. In KZN, the N2 northbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction and the N3 westbound has a stationary truck reported before Market Road exit. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Kromboom Road exit. The M3 southbound queuing towards Rhodes Drive and the N1 outbound has a stationary truck just before Okavongo Road. All lanes are open. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, I promise you I'm going to be hosting the show, and I'll have one eye on the cricket, and maybe I'll give you ball-by-ball commentary. I'll try to. No, I can't promise you if I do that well. Anyway, let's get to Tumi on the line. Tumi's been away, so she's talking to us from a distance, but it doesn't mean the stories are not close to our hearts. And one of them is the cost of an Olympic trip, as per Gayton and Mackenzie. Tumi, tell us more.
Absolutely. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gayton Mackenzie, has slammed reports suggesting that he attended the Paris Olympics as part of an 800,000 rands joyride. Now, he was speaking after addressing the public regarding his first 100 days in office, and Mackenzie says that there was no irregular expense incurred by his department.
I do believe that the cost was put up by the demand of cars in the Olympics, the demand of hotels. I went on my own cost cutting. My children went to Dubai September last year. Go check which hotel they stayed at. Go check which hotel my kids stayed at. Go check what we flew going there. Then you'll understand this excitement you're talking about. I'm not excited for perks. This is a downgrade for me. I am not this minister that will be told blue lights excite me.
Then moving on to cricket, the Proteas women continue their quest for a maiden T20 World Cup title when they face six-time champions Australia in the semi-final today, and that match gets underway at 4 p.m. Now, historically, Australia have dominated this fixture, winning 9 of the 10 T20 internationals between the two sides. However, South Africa's sole win against the Aussies in this particular format came in January this year, and South Africa have been very impressive at the Dubai International Stadium, winning all 3 T20 matches at this venue in the World Cup. And Captain Laura Fulvard believes that this gives her side confidence going into the game.
Yeah, obviously a massive game for us. Obviously brings back a little bit of deja vu just a year ago, having to face him in the final. I think a lot has happened since then, though. Obviously we had the 2 wins against him earlier this year, so I think that just gives a bit of a positive energy in the camp, knowing that if we play our best cricket, they are beatable. So yeah, big evening for everyone. Tonight's just about doing what we can to get in the best space to be ready for tomorrow.
We're wishing them nothing but the best with regards to that semi-final. I'll be watching this one with you, Ashraf, from 4 p.m.
Well, absolutely. And well, one thing is wishing them nothing but the best, but you want them to win, bottom line, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Obviously, this time around, they want to lift that title, and coming up against the side that they faced in the final the last time out, and I was listening to the Australia team, they also admitting to the fact that they're not the same team that they were at the previous World Cup, so perhaps it might work to our advantage.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you got it's T20, so what, 20 overs? That's over in 90 minutes. If I got my maths right, I think it is, right? Very little time to come back if things go wrong. And I just hope that on the day, the South African cricket team can actually deliver and then go on to win the T20 World Cup. That would be fantastic.
Absolutely. Let's move on to rugby news. First choice England scrum half Alex Mitchell has been left out of Steve Borthwick's squad for the November test that includes a Twickenham visit from the Springboks. Mitchell has not played this season because of a neck injury, and his club, the Northampton Saints, have been unable to provide a time frame for his return. England hosts South Africa on the 16th of November, and they're also due to face New Zealand, Australia and Japan. Then moving on to football, Tashreeq Morris has reportedly undergone a medical with SuperSport United, with some delays in opening up a foreign slot to make room for Samir Nurkovic, who is also in advanced talks to put pen to paper outside the window period. SuperSport have looked to Morris as another quick solution. Now, the 30-year-old became available on the market after leaving Babina Noko at the end of last season, in which he only featured in 8 games. Elsewhere, David Beckham says that he's quite optimistic that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's involvement can help transform Manchester United's future for the better. Ratcliffe's Ineos took charge of the club's football operations from the Glazer family in February, but United have had an underwhelming start to the new campaign, and pressure has mounted on manager Erik ten Hag. However, according to Beckham, he believes that fans will need to be more patient with Ratcliffe and his team. Finally, in boxing, newly crowned WBO junior bantamweight world champion Phumelela Kafu returned home to a hero's welcome yesterday, with his family, including his mother, in attendance. The family had travelled all the way from Duncan Village in East London to welcome their son, who on Sunday became the new world champion after beating former champion Yosuke Tanaka in the points to lift the title in Tokyo. And just speaking to the media, he said that it was a special welcome and he's looking forward to winning more titles. On that note, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Thanks for that, Tumi. And when you have more, it will mean that Cricket World Cup semi-final would have started.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, let me get some voice notes and some calls. Miles in Joburg. Hi, Miles.
Good day, Ashraf. It's Miles Budu here. Look, Ashraf, I need to say this, and nobody else would say it. You know, Gayton McKenzie was one of our gold card-carrying members whilst he was in prison at Grootplay with Kenny Kunene. He was my best friend.
Right.
Came out, became a millionaire overnight, and he distanced himself and went around and bad-mouthed me. But that didn't hurt me over the past 20 years. Well, however, there comes a time that somebody must tell Gayton in no uncertain terms that he needs sometimes to shut up, sit down, listen, take notes, go and do research, come back, and then respond. Somebody needs to tell Gayton McKenzie that, look, he is now in a very privileged position. He must stop doing this screaming and yelling at the slightest provocation, double talking and triple talking. He went to Israel. He came back with blood money from the Zionists, and he ended up instructing Kenny Kunene to say, hunt Hamas, hunt. Hunt Hamas, hunt. Does he know that he has caused hatred to an extent that the Muslim community is watching him?
But Miles, I heard what you said, and you said someone must tell him to shut up. In fact, you've just done it already anyway, okay? Because whatever you say on air is for the record. It's for him to listen. But on the last part about you saying he returned from Israel with blood money, how do you know that as a fact?
I know that as a fact because he is a friend of the Zionists. You know that he is the best friend. He isn't boasting that he's a friend of this guy called Herzog. Herbert Herzog.
No, I know he's certainly pushed a pro-Israeli line. I'm aware of that. But I'm saying, how do you know he's got money for that? That's what I'm asking you.
Well, where does all his money come from? I mean, if you're a friend of a billionaire like that a Zionist called Rob, I mean, he's not friends because they eat fat cakes and mincemeat.
Okay.
They share a lot of money, and the cult community is hurt the way he is presenting himself and has forgotten about them, especially in El Rado Park where I'm staying.
All right.
I'm staying
Miles, I need to move on. Got your point. And if they hurt, well, whether they would vote him into power again is another story. Certainly, he'd received many votes to get into a significant position of bargaining as he has now. Golden Miles Budu, thanks for that. Right. Further thoughts on some of the big issues that we've been talking about. Clearly, Gayton's issue is one of them.
A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and your production team. I concur with Gayton McKenzie in some instances, because as much as this country requires transformation, it's important to avoid unnecessary expenditures like name changing by diverting those resources to the poorest of the poor and the marginalized. I thank you, Lota Emonti.
Okay, there's one in agreement with Gayton McKenzie. Here's another.
Hi, Ashraf. That is Pietie Frankenberger. Ashraf, it's clear that your guest is not objective. So it's pointless having a conversation or listening to him. It's clear that your guest is not objective. He's probably more racial than anything else. So he's not objective.
Okay, that's according to you. I'm not even sure which guest you're referring to, but whichever it is, according to you. Thank you for that comment. It is the National Pulse. Lots of different things gets our pulses racing, mine and yours. Different things at times. We understand that. But hey, that's the way we roll, isn't it, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's TK from Durban. Ashraf, I fully agree with the minister. And the hating is not only directed to the white people, it's also directed to black people that are not associated with the ANC. Like in KwaZulu-Natal, they wanted to change Prince Mangosuthu Highway, the highway that is proceeding to Umlazi, to Griffiths Mxenge Highway. But knowing very well that in Umlazi, Mthelezi built a hospital that is there even today, Prince Msheni Hospital. He built a University of Technology, Mangosuthu. There's a lot that he did in Umlazi, yet they wanted to change the name for Mthelezi after that contribution. That's why I'm saying the name changing is a bit revengeful for me, because there was no need for them to even consider or contemplate that change. Okay, Ashraf.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll tell you what's an interesting thing to come out of this, without even looking at the merits of specific names that are being discussed. I mean, someone said the other day, what about naming a street in the Eastern Cape after Siya Kolisi? Although I think the norm would be naming it after the person who's passed on, isn't it? I think it is, right? But here's the thought to consider. One of the issues that we always open to is name change when there's regime change. So, for example, you have an ANC-led Gauteng or Johannesburg region, and they have a name change of a street, and there's nothing stopping, if there's a new political dispensation that comes into play 2-3 years down the line, changing that street name again and then again and then again. In fact, it has happened in history as well, so it's not a surprise, and not just in this country but in many other parts of the world as well, where you do get these name changes. Maybe the only way out of that is to have very neutral name changes, but certainly have people who have represented South Africa, for example, in public office, and the rest of them are seen as heroes. And I know all of that is very, very subjective, isn't it? Let's talk about another thing that is subjective or not, the issues of how can we heal the nation, right after this.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
So here's an interesting thought about where we are, right? My guest is Yasmin Suka, who's a leading human rights lawyer and the executive director of the Foundation for Human Rights in South Africa. Yasmin, first of all, appreciate your time, and you now connected to the National Pulse.
Yes, and thank you for having me. Just a correction. I'm the former executive director. I am a member of the board of the foundation, but not the director at this point.
Need to scratch that out. You see, otherwise we'd have to have a street named after you with that sort of point, isn't it? Yeah. So former executive director, but on the board right now. Right, but of course you also played a role in the South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Now, we are talking to you because of what we see, and maybe you see it as well, the ongoing impact of generational trauma in terms of the impact of apartheid, and that ahead of a conference, I understand that is imminent, that you can tell us more about.
Well, the conference actually started yesterday, and it's being hosted by the South African Coalition on Transitional Justice. And really, it was to bring, survivors of the apartheid conflict together, who have come from all of the different provinces in South Africa, and to discuss the outstanding question of both accountability for apartheid-era crimes and then, of course, also reparations. Now, this happened more than 30 years ago, and the Commission actually closed its doors by 2001, and it handed over its reparations policy to the government in 1998, and it reinforced that in 2003. And yet, when you look at the question of reparations, it remains a thorny issue for many of the survivors whose lives have not really changed. And last week, there was another conference hosted by the Foundation for Human Rights, which brought together the families of many of the survivors, where there has been no accountability for apartheid-era crimes. And the shocking thing is that, in the period between 1993 and 1998, the relatives who were handling these violations were usually the wives and family members. And now we are seeing the next generation having to take up the cudgels. And the amount of intergenerational trauma is quite obscene. And yet there is no support system for them. In fact, one of the victims got up yesterday and said he can't sleep at night because the only thing that crosses his mind is a replay of what happened to him. And yet there is nowhere in the part of the world where he stays where you can actually access any kind of support. And I think that's just a disservice to the people who gave up their lives, really, and sacrificed it so that we could have the new South Africa.
And the fact that we have what you've just told us about now, that this is the current state, is that a reflection on the TRC? Is that a reflection on the government that was in charge at the time when the TRC was laid out? Is that a reflection of broader society? I mean, who's to blame for this?
Well, I would put the blame squarely at the feet of the government of the day, because remember, the TRC did its work. It took, its mandate period, it went around the country and it listened to victims. And in fact, it made recommendations to the government, which were fairly comprehensive, dealing not only with the question of financial compensation, but also dealing with access to services which would improve the quality of their lives, and then also looking at the kind of recognition through symbolic measures. Now, the Commission handed over its report to the government in 1998, and at that point, the government said, well, the amnesty process is not yet complete, so we're only going to deal with reparations when that happens. But by 2003, the Commission handed over its final reports to the government of South Africa, and in what I would say is quite a travesty of justice, the government didn't really discuss the recommendations of the Truth Commission. They just decided that they would abrogate the recommendations, and in fact they would make a once-off payment to victims, only those who had come before the Commission, of 30,000 Rand, and they never bothered to deal with anything else. And of course, in the years since then, victims have been clamoring for them to at least deal with the question of services and, of course, the questions of access to community reparations. And I can tell you that what was really shocking yesterday was to hear that while you have 2 billion Rand left in the President's Fund, the Department of Justice's Truth Commission unit is still talking about passing regulations. I think there were other issues that also came up which were really frightening. At one point, the President's Fund was invested in Standard Bank in a fixed deposit, and then I believe quite a large sum of money was handed over to the PIC for investment. And it seems that somewhere along the way, some money was lost in the process. And in my view, as well as many of the survivors and other people who've been monitoring the situation, we think we need a forensic audit of what has been happening in the President's Fund and what the TRC unit has also done about implementing all of the other recommendations around reparations.
All right, put that thought on hold, because I think everybody's listening. Say, okay, forensic audit, and then what happens next? We'll get an answer from you in a moment.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
This summer, we have extra large offers on Ford Ranger XL, XLT and Wildtrak from only 481,900 for a Ranger XL single cab 4x2. It's the extra large Ranger offer from only 481,900. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer. Optional service plan included. While stocks last. T&Cs apply.
The 2024 Health Excellence Awards, hosted by Cliniques Health Group and the South African Clinician Scientist Society, is calling for nominations. This is your chance to recognize exceptional doctors, specialists, and medical professionals who are making an impact. The celebration of the 4th Annual Health Excellence Awards will take place on 16 November 2024 at Emperor's Palace in Johannesburg. Visit www.healthexcellenceawards.co.za to enter your nomination before 20 October 2024.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge will be taking over the Western Cape. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 25th of October 2024 at the SABC Cape Town M1 Studios, where the University of Cape Town will be taking on the University of the Western Cape in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. RSVP to info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So, Yasmin Suka, we've got you back just to answer one question. You've spoken about the forensic audit, but perhaps just in one line, therefore, if we agree that whatever has happened post the TRC is either broken or flawed, how then do we fix it?
Well, I think that, we believe that you have new officials or a new minister and deputy at the Department of Justice. And while, many of the survivors believe that there should be litigation to compel the government to come to the table to deal with it, I think that what people discussed yesterday was how is it possible to engage with the government? Because there is another issue as well, and that is the fact that the government is confining reparations to only those people who came to the Truth Commission. And if people were not ready to talk or they'd not heard about the commission, then they've been excluded. And so this issue of the closed list is, of course, another one. We believe that there should be engagement between the government and the coalition and, survivors groups, and that in that way we avoid the question of litigation, because after all, we should all believe in the same cause, which is that the Truth Commission was really about restoring the dignity of victims, and that certainly hasn't happened at this point.
And that's where we can leave it. In fact, on my visit to Toronto and Montreal a few weeks ago, in fact, on their TRC day, I remember the speaker saying, we don't want truth and reconciliation, we want truth and compensation. So think about that, Yasmin Suka. Appreciate your time and best wishes for the remainder of the National Reparations Conference. We have another big issue of a by-election coming up soon. Let's talk about that next.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, there's a significant by-election in the Limpopo region we need to talk about. Nkaro Mateta is the provincial electoral officer in Limpopo. This after the dissolution of the Tabazimbi municipality by the National Council of Provinces. Big news, not what's the next step. Thank you for your time, Nkaro.
Good afternoon and good afternoon to the listeners.
Thank you. So, clearly the fact that you're having this election coming up, there would be huge checks and balances considering that municipality, the only reason we're having these by-elections is because the municipality itself followed the dissolution of the municipality. So there's big problems there, right?
Yes, definitely, because when we run elections, we run them so that we can elect people who will then serve the community that elected them by providing basic services, water, electricity, maintenance of roads and many other services that functioning municipalities are expected to provide.
Well, you certainly want to have an efficient election, even a by-election that's free and fair. And I just hear, and I'm sort of quoting what has been said, that the IEC Commission in Limpopo, your commission, admitting that the upcoming by-election will burn a hole in your budget. What does that mean, and how will that play out in terms of the fairness of the results?
Definitely, because normally we do not budget for by-election because they just happen. You know, you cannot say I predict that I will have a dissolved council municipality. So this one is quite big. It is not in our books, so we must just scratch all over the show to make a budget to run this free and fair elections. But we normally do as the Electoral Commission. We try very hard. We do not want to compromise on any of our of the activities as per our election timetable. So we are going to run them in a way that you would normally run elections.
Okay, but you're saying you'll have to sort of scramble around and get things together. Give us an example of what type of scrambling around may take place.
For example, this weekend we are running a municipal-wide registration weekend. We are expected this weekend to open all the 57 registration stations, ensure that we have staff in place. We need to get IEC cars to deliver materials to all those 57 voting stations. And the distances that our cars will be traveling to reach out to those stations, I think range from 5 kilometers up to 100 kilometers. So the last station is 100 kilometers away from the town of Thabazimbi. And if there are any issues during the day, our cars will be moving around. We need to pay the people that we will employ to run the registration weekend this weekend.
And are you concerned at all that there may be compromises to the result?
Not at all. Not at all. We normally are quite strict because our core business is to run credible, free and fair election at all costs. So we really go all out to ensure that there is no doubt. Once these elections are gone, all parties, the winners and the losers, all of them accept that indeed the process was transparent, fair, and the IEC went all out to ensure that the environment is conducive to running free and fair elections.
Okay, and that's where we leave it. And I think one of your quotes is certainly one of the quotes of the day where you say democracy is expensive. There we are. Appreciate your time. In Karo Mateta, Provincial Electoral Officer in the Limpopo region. We'll have an update on that World Cup final. It should World Cup final. I wish it was the final. It's the semi-final. It's South Africa. It's Australia. It's the Women's T20 World Cup, so 20 overs aside, and that game should start just about now. We'll have regular updates with Tumi and at other times if and when it matters, which should be just about all the time. Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Majubi.
Top stories at 4 o'clock. Ramaphosa considers Simelani's VBS report and dozens killed in an Israeli strike on a Gaza school. A very good afternoon. President Cyril Ramaphosa says he's currently considering a report submitted by Justice Minister Thembi Simelane over the VBS loan matter. He was answering oral questions in the National Assembly. DAMP Glynis Breitenbach wanted to know whether Ramaphosa would fire Simelane over what she calls a conflict of interest and the integrity of her financial dealings. Simelane received a loan from a company linked to VBS to buy a coffee shop in Sandton when she was still the Polokwane mayor. This was Ramaphosa's response.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I did say, and with the active participation of the Minister, and I said that I've requested the Minister to submit to me a report on exactly what has happened. That report has been submitted together with various annexures and that is a matter that I'm giving consideration to. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Ramaphosa also says that the UN Security Council in its current form has failed to implement its charter mandate due to narrow national interests. He was asked a question on the urgent reform of the UN Security Council to include African representation.
In its current configuration, the UN Security Council has failed in the execution of its charter mandate because of narrow national interests that are pursued and the quest for further geopolitical influence. It has not been able in recent years to prevent or to resolve several damaging conflicts around the world. This is evident in conflicts currently underway in the Middle East, in the Sudan, in the east part of the DRC, and between Russia and Ukraine.
5 people have been arrested for public violence in Sharpeville in the Vaal. This after a businessman was fatally shot and shops belonging to foreign nationals looted. Police say the situation remains tense and police continue to fire rubber bullets to try and disperse the crowds. In KZN, police have raided several shops alleged to be selling counterfeit goods at South Beach in the Durban CBD. The shops are believed to be owned by foreign nationals. Police say they've also discovered a cigarette storage unit estimated at millions of rand. The raid comes after the arrest of 15 illegal foreigners during a multidisciplinary operation on Monday. Police spokesperson Robert Netsiunda.
So far, counterfeit goods recovered is amounting to 14.8 million, just under 15 million rand. And as things stand, we are still operating, we are still raiding because we are executing search warrants, and this is an operation by a team from National Head Office so that we get rid of these counterfeit goods that in the shops, in the street, almost everywhere.
And Gaza's health ministry says more than 20 people have been killed, some of them children, in an Israeli strike on a school in the Jabalia area. The Israeli military says it carried out what it called a precision strike on Hamas and another Palestinian military group. Israel is not granting international journalists independent access to Gaza. The BBC's Yolanda Nell has more.
We've seen very intense fighting going on in the Jabalia town, the Jabalia urban refugee camp within recent days. That is ongoing now, and we've just got initial reports that a school which was being used for displaced families has been hit in an Israeli airstrike, with one Hamas-run health ministry official being quoted as saying that at least 19 people have been killed there. I was also hearing from the UN's humanitarian official that there have been new orders telling people to leave a particular area in Jabalia. They had then encountered very fierce fighting, shelling. It was just too dangerous for them to get out.
The top story at 4 o'clock, President Cyril Ramaphosa says he's currently considering a report submitted by Justice Minister Thembisi Melani over the VBS loan matter. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
And coming up in your sports, the Sawa Proteas women win the toss and elect to bowl first against Australia. And the sports minister explains why he requested postponement for Saru equity deal. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange, and Eskiam Pahleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Mood Street. In KZN, the N3 westbound in Pietermaritzburg has a stationary truck reported before Market Road exit, and Mgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N1 Service Road outbound has a crash reported just before the N7 highway, and Sable Road eastbound in Century City has a crash reported at the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
After an impressive run in their first 5 matches of the 2024-25 season, collecting 18 points each, both La Rochelle and Bordeaux Glare are pumped up with high energy and eagerness to elevate their winning mentality to the highest level. Witness the collision of two giants, the top 14 rugby contest between La Rochelle and Union Bordeaux Glare on Sunday, 20 October at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, South Africa are playing against Australia in that World Cup semi-final, the T20 Women's World Cup semi-final. The Australians are batting. South Africa won the toss, sent the Australians into bat. We are in the second over of the match, and the Australians have lost a wicket, which is significant. So 8 runs for 1 wicket. The Australians with 2 balls remaining in that second over. We'll update you as and when things happen throughout the show. Let's get on to other issues, but talking about sport of a different sort. The Minister of Sport, South Africa's Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gayton McKenzie, briefed the media today on his 100 days in office, since taking office as part of this unique government of national unity. Mahudi Molape was there. He followed it on behalf of the SABC. Mahudi, appreciate your time. You are connected to the National Pulse.
Oh, thank you so much, Ashraf. Yes, we went there today, and the Minister of Sport and Arts and Culture, he was just briefing us about also reflecting back on his first 100 days in the office as a minister and what they have done as a department and what they have achieved so far. So he also mentioned the almost 1 million that was spent on the trip, how it was spent. Because remember, also when he was tweeting, he became so transparent and showed us how much he spent, what was spent. So today it was all around that, and also about the achievement that he and the department they have achieved so far. So he mentioned that the money previously used to fund super fans, trips such as Mama Joy will also go to artists and athletes who sometimes struggle to raise funds to attend their events. And also about the accusations of overspending the money, he did say that it's his duty as a minister to go to this event, so he can't deny to go to them.
Okay, so that's on the one part of the events. What was his overall thoughts on 100 days in office?
His overall, okay. He mentioned something about also bringing the world rally rate next year, which is probably one of the biggest things, and also being able to bring together the public broadcaster as well, MultiChoice, as well as SABC to broadcast that rugby match. It was one of his achievements so far. And also he said he is in talks with FIA to bring Formula One to the country, while also committing to reviving boxing in the country, where we'll see our drinkers also, fighting. Yeah, that's most of the things that he said.
And what about in the field of arts and culture?
About?
In arts and culture compared to sport. I mean, there's been this huge uproar with artists, who always have felt sidelined for many, many years, in fact.
So he said also he's not proud to say that they need to, like every time when there's an artist that has passed on, they need to chip in. So they're going to make sure that artists are covered very well so that they can be able to, bury themselves and not find people who are going to chip in for their burials.
And in terms of the original point about the money spent at the Olympic Games, was his story convincing? I mean, what was the media response there to what he said?
It looks like, it's 50-50 because if you look at it this way, you would say, even if when you do speak to players, they will tell you how much it means for them to have your Mama Joy there, looking at them and also cheering them. But on the other side, also as a minister, he needs to play that part. Because he also mentioned something that he was the only minister which was missing during the Olympics, and he had to go there and also represent the country as a minister.
Were there any other interesting questions that came through from the media to him?
Yes. One for myself, I did ask about the netball court that was promised, I think, to Limpopo, as well as because earlier on I did go to a story about Netball SA, and when we got there, the president of Netball said something that the 2 million that they get from the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture is actually like a drop in the ocean. So I did ask about that. But the netball court, I didn't get the answer to it, but I did get an answer for the money that's being chipped in, which the president said it's not enough. So he said it's really something that they need to look into. Netball is not getting enough money, and that sport is very important. And he does agree with the president of Netball, and they have to do better, and they're going to do better. That 2 million is not enough at all.
Okay. Did he finally give himself a scorecard in terms of his own performance so far?
Not quite really, Not quite really, but he tried to give us an insight of what to expect, because he didn't also say, hey, look out for next year, but he also said they are going to try to groom a lot of players coming from schools, so that when we go to the Olympics in Los Angeles, there are like a lot of athletes that are coming from this from South Africa.
Okay, that's where we leave it. Mahudi Molapo, the SABC News reporter, covering the media briefing by the Minister of Sports, Arts, Culture, Minister Gayton McKenzie, 100 days in office. How would you rate his 100 days in office, all things considered? I'll take your calls, I'll take your WhatsApp comments, I'll look at your text as well right after this.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Here's a question that's so cryptic I don't really know. Saying, greetings, I wonder if one is in another country, is the racial connotation more important than the citizens being of Britain? They are called British in Italy. It is Italian. What are our rightful status in South Africa? Much appreciated. Well, what do you think? I mean, seriously, do you really need me to answer that question? You travel abroad, you come back, you carry a South African passport. I can tell you that now. Lynn in Kimberley, hi. Hi, Lynn, go ahead. Sure, I can't hear you, Lynn. Hi.
Hear me now?
Well, just try it. It's really not the best of lines, but just try and let's see what happens. No, I'm afraid. I mean, Phineas is giving me the thumbs down, and Phineas handles the technical information. He's like, no. Okay, so that's out. Sorry, Lynn, let's see if we can take your call back again. Many others want to talk about some of the other issues that you may want to raise, right? Let's get to some of the voice notes, including name change once again.
Hi, Ashraf. I'm Dr. Mike Smith from Bloemfontein. I have experience on the Geographic Names Council, serving as a member there. In fact, I served for the past 10 years there. I want to say that name changing is not only about scoring political points. It's about healing the nation. It's about nation building. It's about reconciliation. It's about restoration. It is the right thing to do in building a new South Africa. I support the minister, not because I'm from Bloemfontein and he's also from Bloemfontein, but because it is the right thing to do for the country. It is recognized by the United Nations, and it is the right thing to do. Thank you.
I think maybe the broader question is, name changing is important. As you said, it's nation building if in fact the choices of names are nation building by its nature. And sometimes, governments get it wrong. I'm not saying which ones, but they sometimes do get it wrong. Right, let's get another thought. Eddie in KZN, hi.
Yes, Ashraf, how are you?
I'm good indeed. By the way, just while we're at it, let me update you. 18 now for 2 South Africa. They're playing Australia. That's in the third over. So second Aussie wicket has fallen. 18 runs for 2 in that T20 World Cup semi-final. Eddie, go ahead.
Yes, Ashraf, for the concern with the Department of Education in KZN, there was a press briefing this morning by the KZN Premier about the national certificate readiness. But they only focus on almost 20% of the population of KZN if they're focusing on matric, because they neglected 80% of the schools. We were supposed to receive a norms and standard in June, but the department has failed dismally to transfer those funds to the schools. So most of the schools will be unable to administer the exam for the final, examination for the schools in KZN, because the schools are unable to buy ink, they are unable to buy papers, and it seems that the Department of Education has neglected the schools. And yet they've got the obligation to transfer those funds to the school, because those are the Section 21 schools, or they're normally called as no-fee schools.
So they have an obligation, and you're saying they're not fulfilling it, if I hear you correctly?
No, not at all, because they were supposed to transfer those funds in June, but now look at it, it's almost October. Most of the schools now, water has been closed. There were electricity cuts in most of the schools, because schools are unable to pay those services to the municipality, and there is no word from the Department of Education.
Okay, got that. I tell you what, thank you for that. And again, you're raising it, and hopefully someone from the department can respond to that, because it's a big, big issue indeed. Again, it points to issues of service delivery, isn't it? Right, Lynn, let's get you back on. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Ashraf. Regarding that call from Miles Buddha,
Yeah.
that was so offensive. How can you make a statement and you don't push him to fact check? Just because people are Zionists, does that mean that they give money to Gayton McKenzie?
Did you hold it? Did you say I didn't push him?
No, you didn't.
All right.
You
Clearly, you didn't
I know.
listen. You didn't listen.
I know. Ashraf, I heard every word you said. That's why I'm calling. He says, I know, because he's friends with Zionists. You said to him, give me some proof. I know, because he's friends with Zionists.
Okay.
That's the reason.
Lynn, I asked him where's his proof twice. I asked him
And
where's
he
his
didn't
proof
tell you.
twice. So
And he
if he
didn't
doesn't
tell
tell me, that doesn't mean I haven't asked him, okay? I've asked him where's his proof
Ashraf,
twice.
Ashraf, someone before has said to you that it is not appropriate to have you on this program, and especially when it's regarding the Middle East.
Well, that
I
is
feel
so insulting to me, I think.
And that call from Miles Buddha was so insulting to
Okay.
me as a Jewish listener.
Thanks, Lynn.
And the same way,
Lynn,
Ashraf,
got your
the same way
point.
as Miles Buddha can
Lynn-
tell Gayton McKenzie to be quiet, I would like him to be quiet and come with the facts to tell where that blood money came from.
Well, you can tell him. That's what I asked him as well. Thanks, Lynn. Appreciate your time. And you have your opinion, and I certainly have mine. Did I ask him? Does he have proof? I asked him twice. And he said he knows. That doesn't mean he can give me a fact in a moment. The question is, did I ask him? And that's the significant part. And of course I asked him. And the further point, and I think I must make this point, it really is grossly insulting for people to think that because I am a member of the Muslim faith, that I am a card-carrying member of a certain political persuasion locally or globally. Really, I mean, if that's the case, we could apply the same principle to just about every one of us in the country. I mean, what do you take me for? Of course I have opinions, but when I'm here, I have a responsibility to host a talk show. That's what I do, and I think I do it every single day. And whenever I do, I try to the best of my ability to reflect what is the pulse of the nation. To think that I come in here with a biased agenda, honestly, is insulting to me, and I want to make that point.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said...
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampa on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
The Red Devils are well aware that the only way to find the path to the top is to ensure they triumph against Brentford.
So close from Casemiro.
However, the visitors are confident that the Bees will be all over at Old Trafford.
West Ham struggling to get out of Bumo. They've done it again! Another goal inside the opening minute. How do they keep doing it?
This is the Premier League. Do not miss out on thrilling action between Manchester United FC and Brentford FC on Saturday, 19 October at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Well, we're going to connect with Imran Mohammed from Cliff Decker Hofmeyr pretty shortly. In the meantime, let's get some further comments from you. Again, some of the biggest issues. Here's one on Zimbabwe.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. On Zimbabwe. Well, I hope this is a lesson to those who adhere to political ideologies like socialism and communism, that no government has ever been able to take up the means of agricultural production and feed its own nation. This is the very reason why the Russians ended up privatizing the land, as well as the Chinese. They ended up privatizing the land. So the Zimbabwean government has learned this the hard way, and this is the reason why they are privatizing the land, in order to get the agricultural sector thriving once again. I'm not against the redistribution of land in order to redress the injustices of the past. I'm against the nationalization of land. Thanks, Lionel Woodbank.
Okay, against the nationalization. I wonder if you have another view on that, and maybe lessons from Zimbabwe. What about lessons regarding, undocumented foreign nationals in our country, and in this case, illegal foreign nationals? You may have heard that story recently of 80 employees working in restaurants across the country being arrested for violating the provisions of the Immigration Act by failing to produce the required documentation. Now, just with that in mind, there's been an alert, really, and it's come from many people, including in this case here, the law firm Cliff Decker Hofmeyr, around, you as an employer. What happens if you take in someone who is undocumented, foreign national, undocumented, working for you? Imran Mohammed, the director in employment law at Cliff Decker Hofmeyr, has more on this. Imran, appreciate your time. You connected to the National Pulse.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so you've got some advice for all of us, isn't it, in terms of us being potential employers of undocumented foreign nationals?
Yeah. So perhaps a good starting out point on all of this is to look back to July of this year. So since July of this year, there's been 2,535 inspections that have been conducted across the country by the Department of Employment and Labour. And the bulk of those inspections have been conducted in the Western Cape and Gauteng. And those inspections are are dealing with a variety of employment-related issues that range from compliance with the Immigration Act, and on the point that you mentioned earlier, with regards to the employment of illegal foreigners, to general employment compliance, to compliance with the National Minimum Wage Act, compliance with the Occupational Health and Safety Act. So there's certainly been a ramp up by the Department of Employment and Labour with regards to inspections of different workplaces. It has initially started with the hospitality industry, but it certainly is spreading across various other industries.
All right. So therefore, it is in that context that you can give us some advice, right?
Absolutely. So for an employer, there's an obligation when it comes to the Immigration Act to ensure that an employer does not employ an illegal foreigner. And an illegal foreigner is somebody that's not documented. So that's the first obvious point, is somebody that's not documented, who doesn't have a proper permit or work visa, or a person whose status does not authorize that person to be employed in South Africa. So quite often it happens that a person comes into the country on a tourist visa, and a tourist visa does not allow a person to work in South Africa. And then to employ the person whilst they're on a tourist visa is in breach of the Immigration Act. Or alternatively, is the employment of a foreigner on conditions that are different from that's provided by the work permit. That's also in breach of the Immigration Act. Now, the consequence of that for the employer is that it constitutes a criminal offence under the Immigration Act to employ someone or to employ a foreigner in breach of the Immigration Act. So there's a serious consequence associated with non-compliance.
And therefore, in terms of those consequences, I mean, you've got some, effectively giving us warnings, right, to say, don't do it.
It's absolutely don't do it. Then in relation to employers that do have foreign nationals within their workplace, remember the South African makeup, and you know this, is not a xenophobic makeup. The government accepts that you can employ foreigners. The employment of foreigners must be within a legal framework, and that framework arises out of the Immigration Act. So nothing prevents an employer from employing a foreigner. The requirement is that the foreigner must be able to comply, must be able to render services in a lawful manner, and that arises out of the Immigration Act. So what's required from an employment perspective or from an employer perspective is to ensure that foreigners are legally in a position to render services to that employer, because not to do so creates a problem.
What's the conviction rate of employers who have hired employees who are foreign nationals illegally?
Well, that's a good question. One that I couldn't answer directly. You'd have to pose that to the National Prosecuting Authority.
Okay.
But what we have seen is that there have been arrests, and that's been widely publicized. And I say I couldn't tell you offhand what the conviction rates are, because over the last period, we know that 80 individuals have been arrested. The prosecutions would obviously go through the trial process and the like, and that takes some time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just off on that point, Ashraf, what we certainly have seen, and that's not since July of this year, is deportations. So in other words, where an illegal foreigner is employed by an employer, that there is a deportation of that individual from the country, where there can't be a verification of the permits that are out. And that becomes a big problem, as you can imagine as well.
Absolutely. Well, let's leave it at that. I'm sure this is a conversation we may have again. Imran Mohammed, Director in Employment Law at Cliff Decker Halfmeyer. Let's get the news headlines now. It's 4:30. Here's Majupi.
Very much in Tate Garda, and good afternoon. In your headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa says he's currently considering a report submitted by Justice Minister Thembi Simelane over the VBS loan matter. Preparations for the mass funeral of 6 people that were brutally killed at Godini village outside Qumbu in the Eastern Cape are underway, and a joint statement by the Israel's Defense Force and Security Agency points to the possible death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar during operations in the Gaza Strip. And those are your headlines.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound has delays towards Walmanstal Road exit, the M1 southbound in Central Johannesburg queuing towards Crown Interchange, the N3 southbound in Alexandra has a stationary vehicle reported after Marlborough Drive, the N1 northbound in Midrand slow moving towards Samrand Road in Santon Drive westbound slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive, and Grayson Drive eastbound queuing at Linden Street. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle reported after Spaghetti Junction, the N3 eastbound has a stationary truck at Cliffdale, and the N3 westbound a stationary truck at Ashburton. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit, the N1 Service Road outbound slow moving towards the N7 highway, Batencross Street outbound is slow moving, that's towards the elevated freeway, and Marine Drive northbound in Milnerton queuing at Loxton Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, to me, of course, we're talking about the World Cup, the T20 World Cup semi-final.
Absolutely. Well, the Proteas did win the toss and they elected to bowl first in that T20 World Cup semi-final against Australia. And the last time I checked, Australia was sitting on 39 for 2 in 8 overs. And we'll definitely keep you up to date with what's happening with that particular semi-final. Then moving on to football, Kaizer Chiefs head coach Nasruddin Nabi says that the club's trusted attacker Gaston Sereno could be available for their next game in the Carling Knockout last 16 match against SuperSport United on Saturday. Sereno missed this past weekend's friendly match against Marumo Gallants as he's recovering from an injury, and Nabi says that his absence was hugely felt. He's hoping that he'll have him available on Saturday night at the Peter Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane. Then Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture Gayton McKenzie says that he's requested SA Rugby to postpone the ASG equity deal vote so that he can understand why some franchises are concerned. This week it was reported that 7 out of SARU's 14 member unions signed a letter opposing the ASG deal, and McKenzie says that he also hopes that they can also negotiate more money.
My job as the minister is to listen to people. The reason why I asked for a postponement, I didn't demand a postponement. I asked for a postponement, which was granted, was to listen to what the unions are complaining about. Before December, I will be able to answer this question, to say what is it the unions are complaining about. Your question, what do I think of the deal? I can tell you, if I had to do the deal, the rugby deal myself, I would have pushed for more terms from our side. I would have done a different deal, but we are different. I don't know, I'm not a rugby administrator.
Well, then moving on to tennis news, Carlos Alcaraz admitted that it will be a difficult moment facing his idol Rafa Nadal when the Spanish superstars clash for the final time. Nadal, who's the winner of 22 Grand Slam titles, announced last week that he will retire from tennis after the Davis Cup finals next month. Today, however, the 38-year-old will take on Alcaraz for a place in the final of the Six Kings Slams exhibition event, and the Spanish pair played doubles together at the Paris Olympics this year. And they're expected to team up again at the Davis Cup finals. Then in motorsport, team principal James Vowles says that Williams are not out of the woods despite an upturn in form in the recent races. Williams, who finished 7th in the Constructors' Championship in 2023, had a difficult start to the season, scoring points only twice in the first 15 Grand Prix. Now, their problems were a consequence of Vowles' decision to break so many systems that had been in place at the team to try to improve their performance after years of underachievement. With that said, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
And hopefully when you come on, there's lots more wickets that have fallen for the Australians against the South Africans in that T20 World Cup semi-final. Thanks for that, to me.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
All right, for now, let's get some numbers with Makwe Masilela, the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, you want to talk about the Premier Group's interim results, right?
Yes, and including the financial markets. And these are the EWISA number one, blue ribbon bread guys. And the guys, Ashraf, expect the profits as headline earnings per share to go up by 33%. And that is due to continued focus on margin management, cost-saving initiatives, efficiencies across their manufacturing, logistics, and distribution channels. But Ashraf, volatile soft commodity prices, high interest rates, and constrained consumer spending impacted revenues. And when it comes to the markets, we started the sessions with expectation that the European Central Bank will lower their deposit rate to 3.25% today, a move that will mark its second straight reduction. And as expected, the rates were reduced by 25 basis points, a third cut this year, and that was to prop up their weakening economy. And the much-awaited Chinese briefing on helping their property market offered few new stimulus measures, and the prospect of a Donald Trump presidency is helping the US dollar to continue to stand tall, weighing negatively on the rand. And the US retail sales strengthened in September by more than forecast. That illustrated resilient consumer spending that continues to power the economy. That helped global stocks to hold on to gains, with the JSE up 0.2%, helped by resources again. And locally, the total number of civil summons issued for debt decreased by 14.5% in the 3 months ended August 2024. And when it comes to the oil prices, the Middle East tensions and China's efforts, not sufficient but better than nothing, are helping oil prices to be at elevated levels, up 0.5% to $74 a barrel, and the yellow metal at record highs at the back of expectations of more U.S. rate cuts and also uncertainty over that U.S. presidential election boosted demand. Gold is up 0.6% at 2689, platinum also up 0.6% at 1003. The rand weakened almost 0.8% against US dollars, now 1784, 2305 against the pound, and 1920 against the euro.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that, Marco. We'll have another update from you tomorrow. Absolutely. An update on the cricket, 44 for 2 now. South Africa against Australia, 9 overs completed.
With misinformation and disinformation around us all the time, where can we turn to for news and information that is not fake? Radio, of course, your number one trusted source of reliable and truthful news and information. For over 3 decades, we have been a signatory to the BCCSA Broadcasting Code of Conduct, and we pride ourselves as a trusted source of information. Say no to false news and disinformation that circulates online. Radio, keeping it real and fighting fake since day one. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, let's get to some of your thoughts. Alfred in Mpumalanga. Hi, Alfred.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Alfred.
Ashraf, how's it?
I'm good indeed. Pretty well. Go ahead.
No, good man. You see, Ashraf, I'm irritated by these people who come in on your show and create this game government and say that we are having 2 months, 3 months without load shedding.
Yeah, your line's really bad, eh? Alfred, sorry, man. I'm just getting the thumbs down in terms of we just can't hear you very clearly. So my apology for that. I heard the word load shedding, but not much more than that. Let me see if we've got Pumelela in Joburg. Now we'll get to you in a minute. Lots further comments on street names issues, right?
Good day, Ashraf. Honestly, I'm just so disappointed that out of all the troubles we have in this country, all the issues that needs attention, we are busy speaking of street names. You know, I give up. Lutando in Cape Town.
Well, I must say many people would concur with you to say, how does that become the biggest priority? We're not discussing which name and who that person is, just the principle of can this be the biggest issue that we'll be talking about? That's another thought, right? Alfred, we've got you back. Hello.
Ashraf.
Yep. Go ahead.
I'm saying the problem, or what irritates me, is to hear people praising the GNU, to say they are having 2 months without load shedding. They don't know what they are talking about. I'm in Mpumalanga, in the Dr. J.S. Moroka municipality, and even in Tembisile. Electricity goes always at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. It's even worse than that time now. See, so I'm getting angered by the people who are saying the load shedding is no longer there, talking what they don't know. You see.
Well, I think you're right.
Sorry?
I think you're right about that. There's no load shedding officially, but are we having power cuts? We absolutely are having power cuts. Do they mean the same thing? Maybe not, but the impact on you is basically the same. And there are too many places around the country that are still feeling the brunt, if I can call it that, of no lights, even if I don't call it no load shedding. Alfred, thanks for that call, and I'm so sorry about your frustrations, because it's clearly there. Absolutely. Here's another one.
Good day to you, Ashraf, and the team. You're speaking to Martin here from Ivory Park. Ashraf, I'm so interested actually in participating as a Joburg resident of these name changes, especially this new one about the Senton Drive into this plane hijacker. So can you please share with us, where is this actually taking place? Where is this gathering taking place? How can one actually participate in this? Please find out for me, because I really want to be there. I really want to participate. Please, Ashraf.
Okay.
Thank this Martin from Ivory Park.
Right. Here's my understanding. In fact, gatherings and talks have already taken place, and then you had a period up to yesterday or the day before, in fact, to raise your objections or your concerns. So that deadline was the 15th, if I'm not mistaken. So that's passed. So what happens now is there's pro and there's against, and then of course it's for council to decide whether what they're gonna do next. Whether that means that's open to further debate, I don't know, and whether that means there's gonna be public gatherings right now. Well, I'm not aware of any. If anybody else knows about it, pro or against, then I'd be happy to share that information.
Good day. This message is directed to Ashraf on the National Pulse. Ashraf, I'm Phil calling from Krugersdorp. I just listened to that lady insult you, and I believe that SAFM, I listen to it all day. I'm a pensioner. I believe that you present a very balanced show with everybody has different opinions, and just because you are Muslim, they think that you are biased. You are not biased. I listen all the time. I'm a white guy. But it teaches me a lot. I sometimes get annoyed with what people say that I don't agree with. But it allows us all to learn a lot about each other and to live together better and build what you're calling a champion nation. Please do not let that lady get you down at all, as I'm sure she isn't. Thank you very much. Have a great day, Ashraf. All the best.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. No, certainly did not get me down. And I think you're right about the essence. First of all, let me just say this much. We all have opinions. Of course I have an opinion. I have an opinion on many things. I have an opinion on Palestine and Israel and Russia and Ukraine and the USA and things in South Africa. I clearly do. And sometimes we express it. Sometimes it's just ours. But to think there's a difference between expressing an opinion and being biased in your outlook in terms of your conversations on air. And that I can't do. I wouldn't allow that for myself. Okay. So there are lots of people I would interview that are people I'm familiar with. Okay, it doesn't stop me asking questions about them. And the other one around that one is all of us to think that all we ever do is to speak and along color or racial or religious lines is just crazy. It suggests that if I speak to a Christian, they would automatically toe a Christian line. If I speak to a Hindu, they would automatically toe a Hindu line. I mean, really, in South Africa? We have our opinions, but when they come up on public platforms, they have to represent an interest grouping, and I think the essence of that is the way I see it. Okay, so I much appreciate your comment there. There's another one.
Ashraf, good afternoon to you and good afternoon to the listeners. I think that what Lynn has said is a bit unfair because at the end of the day, you can only be a facilitator. I fully concur that, you push Mike to give you facts and you can only say so much. So, my advice to Lynn is that, take it with a pinch of salt. Anybody else's opinion, even my opinion, Ashraf, I don't think it has absolutely anything to do with you. You can only but question my motives and thoughts. So I'd just like to say to Len, have a cup of tea and take it a bit easy today. No need for a heart attack. Thank you very much, Ashraf. This is Satang and Limpopo.
Okay, thank you for that call. I don't have to add anything else. I think you are spot on. Billy in Sekukune. Hi, Billy.
Yes, Ashraf, how are you?
I'm good indeed. Right, go ahead. What's your point?
I want to check if the Zimbabwean government want to compensate the farmers. What is it for? Because the understanding is that the same farmers have taken the land from those Africans by force without any compensation there. And now that we've got the GNU in South Africa, I believe that there's a connection between Ramaphosa and Mnangagwa, who did not even win election. But Ramaphosa was the first one to congratulate him without even double-checking what went wrong.
But when you say there's a connection, I mean, help me understand. Are you saying there's a connection between the two regarding this land issue?
Remember when Mnangagwa was expelled from government, he came to South Africa and he went back. He then he toppled Mugabe. Today he's together with Ramaphosa compensating white people for what? I don't understand this. Yes, of course, we still have a
All right, I
problem.
hear you. What I'm saying, all I'm asking you is, how do we know for sure that it's Ramaphosa? That's my point again. Like, what's your facts to say it's because of him? Because they met.
Ramaphosa defending
No, but did he say that? Did Mnangagwa say, I'm doing it because of Ramaphosa? Did he say that?
No, I'm saying there's a connection. Just after this GNU,
Okay.
Mnangagwa is announcing something very strange.
All right, got that. Thank you for that call. Well, you know what? One of the things, and really it's something I say often. There are people, like, for example, the current call, I don't agree with everything he says. One of the things I say often is like, we have such diverse opinions about a range of issues. In this case, Zimbabwe. One thing about the show, therefore, is that you have to listen because it's going to get you thinking every single day. And yes, it gets your pulses racing. It is called the National Pulse, after all. I just want to check if I've got there's another voice note. In fact, what we'll do, there's a fascinating conversation we can have about Joburg, and there's a potential chance for you to win. What is it? Is it $1 billion rands? No, maybe a million rand, not $1 billion rands. Can't get that much money to try and fix Joburg. Are you up for it? We'll talk about that next.
Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Myths versus facts. I'm too young to get breast cancer. Many women under age 40 are diagnosed with breast cancer. Men can't get breast cancer. 1 in 922 men have a lifetime risk of breast cancer. I have never had children and can therefore not get breast cancer. Women who haven't had children or only had them after 30 have an increased risk of breast cancer. Breast Cancer Awareness Month on SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So there's been reports certainly coming from the Times Live newspaper online that the former EFF MP and the actor Fana Makwena has now resigned from Parliament. So there you are. That's another issue. He was just sworn in as an MP a few months ago, in fact. So things certainly changing there, right? Okay, let's get to some of the other issues. So I did mention Johannesburg, the city of Joburg. So here it is, the so-called world-class African city, far from world-class at the moment. Okay, there are many issues that is impacting this city. So therefore, we do also know we have a new administration with a new mayor that's been in office for a short time. Well, the city of Joburg is now calling on residents to submit ideas to enhance municipal service delivery through its Smart City Community Innovation Challenge and Award. So do you get that? To enhance municipal service delivery, and there's a competition really. Smart City Community Innovation Challenge and Awards 2024. So here's the bottom line. If you have an innovative idea and the city likes it, well, you'll be rewarded, and I believe there's some big money. Not $1 billion rands, a bit closer to $1 million rand. Monique Griffith is the Head of Innovation Partnerships in the Smart City Office. Appreciate your time, Monique. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you and your listeners? Thank you for having us.
How do I get the $1 million rands?
You don't get R1,000,000. It is actually a total of 1.1 million and is split across all 7 regions. So we make sure that there is a winner in each region. The biggest prize is 300,000. Then the next one is 200,000, and then smaller prizes of 100,000. But what we wanted to make sure is that each of the 7 regions of Johannesburg have an initiative that can be piloted and put on the ground and into communities to see how that solution is actually working within the communities themselves.
All right, let's take a step back and understand the gist of it. There's a need to energize the city of Joburg. We need some serious innovation. That's where you are. But here's an interesting one. I mean, the city, the management, effectively, I mean, you're the agent around this one, are saying we want to incentivize citizens who've got bright ideas, and we will give them money if we use their bright ideas. That's the story, right?
Absolutely. And that is kind of one of the core principles of being a smart city, and a smart city always is an innovative city. And you can't be innovative unless you are going to your grassroots, to your employees, to your citizens, to those who actually experience the day-to-day challenges of things that are going wrong. There's no corporation who is a successful global corporation that doesn't actually listen to the problems of their users and then take their suggestions and improve their methodologies or their products or their services around what those complaints are.
Okay. What about the critic who may say, it's fine to get the citizens to give their bright ideas and reward them? Then what then is the job of those that manage the city?
So this is citizen engagement. And one of the pillars and one of the priorities and mayoral priorities of the city of Johannesburg is being more engaged with the citizens. As you said, I'm my unit, the functionality is innovation partnerships. Who best to partner with than your actual citizens? So it is our responsibility, of course, because any of the ideas that come through, we are piloting. So the awards are actually being put into the pilots. It's not just we've tried this before, where we just give an award, you give people money, they go away, the money is gone, nothing happens with the innovation. There's no business that gets spiraled out of it. There's no benefit that spirals out of it. So the money is actually seeding the actual pilot projects themselves to get something on the ground. And we are trying to evolve into an urban living lab. Urban living lab internationally is a city that learns from its mistakes, a city that engages its communities and finds solutions. Because sometimes we go as officials and we find these big grandiose solutions, but when they get on the ground, they don't work with the day-to-day reality of those who need to use it. Alternatively, we can spend a lot of money and it would be something so simple as changing the type of light bulb structure that you use when people are stealing your light bulbs. So we're just looking for, innovative and creative ideas on the ground, especially from our young people and women and those with different abilities, etc., to be able to find solutions, present their solutions, and then we put them into a process where we help them to actually develop those ideas. So if this is something that, there's a matrix that we're going to use. So it's the idea, but it's also a challenge that the city has been having. And we're looking for a modernized, productive, and innovative way to tackle that solution and to bring it down into the community levels. We often talk about co-production or localization of solutions, and this is how we plan to do it. This is the first of this type of call where we're going to communities and broadcasting it like we are and going across all 7 regions. And we hope to only grow it from strength to strength and, have localized solutions. Although we have a centralized governance, the question is, how do we localize the solution so that we can inspire social entrepreneurs and evolve people into actual entrepreneurship once they find that there is a problem that people in the community would actually want to support.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? With regards to, what's different here, it's not simply a city-sponsored award. It's a city-sponsored innovation awards only so far as if those innovative ideas are being used and implemented by the city. That's when they get a prize. I get that, right? Has it been done in other cities? And if so, to what degree of success?
Well, most cities that follow the Urban Living Lab methodology are actually implementing ideas. I mean, you can go to Amsterdam, you can go to New York, you can go to Singapore. A lot of what they do to become a smart city is looking at innovation and looking at innovation at the ground level. What they do is they support them via incubation, which is why we have a partnership with Wits University Chulalongkorn, particularly their makerspace, where they typically find ideas and they hackathons, and they do hackathons to actually build products and to create solutions and services that are implementable. So that's kind of where we're steering this towards. It's looking at what the best models are internationally, and then how do we start becoming that urban living lab. Remember, this is sandboxing. This is learning by doing. So that's what we're doing. We're getting out there and we're learning, and we're going to see what works. We're going to support the things that work and hopefully scale them. And then we're looking for partnerships, because while we might be seeding them as the city to get the pilot off the ground, once we monitor and see their impact, in order to scale, we're going to need partnerships. We're going to need skills trainers. We're going to need CETAs. We're going to need, we already are engaging.
You're going to need all of those things. Interesting. You mentioned Chulalongkorn. I mean, and I certainly know from having been invited there a few times by the late Barry Dwolotsky as well as Leslie Donna Williams, just in terms of the role they've played in enhancing innovation. So looking forward to that, right? So let's get to the end goal here in terms of the public. What should someone listening to us? What should they do? And perhaps as you answer that, must they be a citizen of the city of Joburg? Or could it be someone in Pofadder listening and say, hey, I've got this really good idea for the city of Joburg?
No, we are looking for residents of the city of Joburg. So one of the things that they're going to have to show is that they are actually reside here in the city of Johannesburg. They could be at their mother's house or family who is here. But and then we are also trying to locate the solutions within the particular region that they're from. So if you're from region A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc., we want to make sure that we are selecting somebody who lives in that region and has a solution. Because again, this is how do we inspire communities to build themselves and to support themselves and to be a better partner for communities as the city of Johannesburg and the smart city.
Okay, give me some details. How do they find out more?
Okay, well, if they go on to the City of Johannesburg's website, we do have the innovation call there. There will be a series of online and social media adverts that will be coming out in the next week. So right now they can go to the joburg.org.za and look for the innovation call there. And then they would find a link, and it's a very short process, a short form where they fill in what their idea is about, how it will be implemented, what problem it solves, and then we will move on to the next level where we're going to start going to the different regions. We've spoken to all the regional, the counselor forums to let them know that we're going to be coming to have briefing sessions with young people in those areas, or not just young people, anyone who has a solution. Okay. We'll have briefing sessions, and then we will have support sessions for those later who need assistance to actually use an online submission process.
Let's leave it at that. I'll leave it to you to, by the way, to tweet out all the links you've just suggested. Just tag us, SAFM Radio, on Twitter, on the X platform, as well as on Facebook too, and we certainly will share that. You can tag me as well, Ashraf Garda. Monique Griffith, Head of Innovation Partnerships in the Smart City Office in the city of Johannesburg. That is quite fascinating, isn't it? We'll have an update on the cricket as well coming up. I just want to give you the position. It could be significant before we get to the news. So 76 for 3, the Australians, that's in the 14th over of the match. 76 for 3, 77 for 3 now, Australia against South Africa. Let's get the news now. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. In this news update, Ramaphosa answers questions on Simelane report and manhunt continues for Lesikisiki killer. Good day to you. President Cyril Ramaphosa says he's currently considering a report submitted by the Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Thembi Simelane over the VBS Mutual Bank loan matter. He was answering questions in the National Assembly today. DA MP Glynis Breitenbach wanted to know if Ramaphosa would fire the minister over what she calls a conflict of interest and the integrity of her financial dealings. Simelane received a loan of more than R500,000 from VBS-linked Gundu Wealth Solutions to buy a coffee shop in Sandton when she was still the mayor of Polokwane in 2016. This is what Ramaphosa's response was to Breitenbach.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I did say, and with the active participation of the Minister, and I said that I've requested the Minister to submit to me a report on exactly what has happened. That document report has been submitted together with various annexures, and that is a matter that I'm giving consideration to. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola, says one known suspect linked to the mass murders in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape is still on the run. 18 people were killed in a mass shooting more than 2 weeks ago. 4 suspects have been arrested so far and will appear at court tomorrow. The Commissioner says more arrests are likely.
We expect, yes, more arrests in the future. As I said, we are having one that we are aware of that is on the run that we are looking for. We can't say it will be the last one. And as the Minister say, we are also looking somewhere in the correctional services. We are also looking for further arrest in that regard at the correctional service.
Preparations for the mass funeral of 6 people killed at Godini village in the Eastern Cape are underway. The funerals are expected to take place this coming weekend. The victims were members of a community policing forum who were gunned down at a local school while getting ready to patrol. One suspect has been arrested and has already appeared in court. Family member Nomfeko Soshongai.
I am very hurt. I feel like we lost everything here at home. My brother was a breadwinner. We don't have anyone to rely on now. I wish we were all killed that day. Even when we are at home, we don't feel safe after what happened.
Meanwhile, the spokesperson for the Mkhonto local municipality, Mamele Ngqokwa, says they will ensure that all families get a dignified funeral.
The mass funeral is to help those that are less privileged, that are staying in the area. Those are the breadwinners for their families that were killed in the school right here. So the municipality, in partnership with the provincial government, is assisting all those families that need help so that they can do the funeral in a dignified manner.
Johannesburg Water says they'll continue to engage with ward councillors from the Westbury and Coronationville communities to inform them of ongoing efforts to improve their water supply. Residents embarked on a protest yesterday over water supply issues. Joburg Water spokesperson Nombuso Shabalala.
Recently, the entity held an urgent meeting with local councillors to discuss ongoing infrastructure upgrades, as well as to seek their assistance in encouraging residents to reduce water consumption. These are the entity's ongoing efforts to ensure consistent and long-term water supply through the upgrading of existing infrastructure and the provision of new water infrastructure for the additional capacity to support high-density settlements.
Finally, a joint statement by Israel's Defense Force and Security Agency points to the possible death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar during operations in the Gaza Strip. The statement refers to 3 individuals killed in an IDF operation, but their identity could not be confirmed at this stage. Sherwin Bryce Peace reports.
If Sinwar is confirmed dead, he'd become the 3rd and final Hamas leader to be killed by Israel following the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court's effort seeking their arrest warrants on war crimes charges, along with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Israel has long indicated that killing Sinwar was a key objective, but he had long proved elusive. News site Axios reports that Israeli officials, quoting soldiers in the field, said they thought one of the dead bodies resembled Sinwar, but that the identity could not immediately be confirmed. Israel has eliminated key leaders of both Hamas and Hezbollah in Lebanon, including the latter's longtime leader Hassan Nasrallah. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.
The top story, the President says he is currently considering a report submitted by the Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Thembi Simelane over the VBS Mutual Bank loan matter. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Proteas Women Road to Glory continues in semi-final against Australia. And Gayton McKenzie says F1 close to returning to South Africa. More details at 5:30.
SAFM.
guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R24 westbound in Edenville has a crash before the N12 highway merge. Santon Drive westbound slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive. In Midrand, the N1 northbound slow moving towards Samrand Road, and Summit Road westbound has delays at Blue Hills. In KZN, the N2 northbound, an earlier crash before Mgeni Road has been cleared, but traffic is still slow moving. The N3 is queuing on the link to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction. The N3 eastbound has a stationary truck at Cliffdale. The N3 westbound has a stationary truck at Ashburton. Mgeni Road westbound queuing at the N2 highway, and Simiso and Kwanyana Road eastbound slow moving towards Mgeni Road. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit. The N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road. Main Road outbound is slow moving, that's towards the N2 highway, and Wetton Road westbound queuing through Wynberg. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
After an impressive run in their first 5 matches of the 2024-25 season, collecting 18 points each, both La Rochelle and Bordeaux-Bègles are pumped up with high energy and eagerness to elevate their winning mentality to the highest level. Witness the collision of two giants, the top 14 rugby contest between La Rochelle and Union Bordeaux-Bègles on Sunday, 20 October at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Red Devils are well aware that the only way to find the path to the top is to ensure they triumph against Brentford.
And so close from Casemiro.
However, the visitors are confident that the Bees will be all over at Old Trafford.
West Ham struggling to get out of Mbeumo, they've done it again! Another goal inside the opening minute. How do they keep doing it?
This is the Premier League. Do not miss out on thrilling action between Manchester United FC and Brentford FC on Saturday, 19 October at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, first an update on that World Cup, the T20 World Cup cricket semi-final. Australia batting, 16 overs completed, and the Aussies are 94 for 3. They're facing South Africa. That's in the Women's T20 World Cup. So 2 interesting briefings today. Firstly, the President, Ramaphosa, in fact, in Parliament, answering questions. We'll get to play some of the clips from that later on. But before that, we've had the MK party, and they briefed the media today outside Parliament on the first 100 days of the GNU, or what they would call the so-called GNU, right? Now, the MK party parliamentary caucus leader, Dr. John Tlhophe, well, he touched on a number of issues. Let's pick out some of them. First things first, he spoke about the NPA's decision not to prosecute President Ramaphosa over the Phala matter.
By the NPA, that is the National Prosecuting Authority, not to prosecute the president over the Phala scandal is a clear example of how justice in this country is reserved for the powerful. Millions of rands were found hidden on the president's farm, yet he walks free without facing any consequences. This is a slap in the face of every South African who demands accountability and fairness. If this government truly cared about transparency and justice, they would ensure that no one, not even the president, is above the law. But instead, we see them closing ranks, protecting each other, and letting corruption thrive while the people continue to struggle. The MK party has been deliberate and systemic in its attempt to salvage South Africa from the rod of the DA-led coalition. Our approach is informed by our people's mandate and is encapsulated in our manifesto, which has 8 pillars. All our efforts as the MK party are rooted in those 8 pillars.
And then Dr. John Klopes then spoke about something very personal, himself and the JSC.
JSC? Yes. The JSC, I consider myself a member of the JSC, right? The reason why I decided to withdraw from the JSC was strategic. The party has a right to be represented. MK party is an official opposition, so I've been gagged by this judiciary of Ramaphosa, meaning I cannot participate in the JSC. And then the party suffers because the party is not represented. There is no provision in the Constitution for an alternate member. So the obvious thing for me to do was to withdraw so that the party would deploy somebody else, so that the party would deploy somebody else in the JSC until my problems are cleared. I'm talking about political problems because there is nothing legal. The Constitution is very clear. I have a right to sit on the JSC. Here in Parliament, I sit on the Justice Portfolio Committee. One of the things that the Justice Portfolio Committee does is to recommend salary adjustment for judges. So I can recommend their salaries and fix their salaries, but I can't interview them, right? So it's a strange situation. I can tell you what I'm doing was done by Justice Harding in America. He came from the state of Florida. He was the first black judge to be impeached. After he was impeached, he joined the Congress. He became a congressman in the state of Florida, and he was deployed to the JSC. In South Africa, when it suits a white man to look to other jurisdictions, to go to America and to go to the West by way of comparison, they do that without hesitation. There is no reason why that precedent was not followed. And the courts are courts of law, not courts of morals. Since when are courts courts of morals? It is only starting now because of law.
Courts of law, not courts of morals. Let's get an update on the cricket now. A significant wicket. The Aussies have lost their 4th wicket. They were 99 for 4, just over 100 now. That's 17 overs gone, so 3 overs to go. And that wicket, that of Beth Mooney, going for 44, and she's a top run scorer for the Australians. Now, once again, Dr. John Klopes made it. He spoke about Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, the former public protector, former member of the EFF. And the big question is she a member of the MK party?
Advocate Mkhwebane is not a member of Umkhonto weSizwe party. She is at liberty to join Umkhonto weSizwe party, just like every South African is at liberty to join Umkhonto weSizwe party, including you, journalists.
But I must add that I will be recruiting her.
I think Chief Football was going to say, if my wife was a member of the EFF and I was MK, I'd be agitating that she joins.
Well, South Africa is alive with possibilities, and that's just another example of it. Amidst the tension also lots of humour. What about you? Any further comments you'd like to make based upon Dr. John Tlhophe's comments today or at the briefing? You'd like to add that, you certainly can do so. WhatsApp voice notes will get you the quickest way to do so, 0614 104 107. But I will take your calls as well, 086 000 2032, and you can also text message and post comments on our social media pages, particularly Facebook, as well as on the X platform. You can tweet it out there. Use the hashtag #TheNationalPulse. We'll play the clips now from the President as he answered questions in Parliament next.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does every electrical company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul?
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
After an impressive run in their first 5 matches of the 2024-25 season, collecting 18 points each, both La Rochelle and Bordeaux-Bègles are pumped up with high energy and eagerness to elevate their winning mentality to the highest level. Witness the collision of two giants, the top 14 rugby contest between La Rochelle and Union Bordeaux-Bègles on Sunday, 20 October at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The reality is that 90% of South Africans don't save enough for retirement. This National Seniors Month, why not be part of the 10% who do? Choose an interest rate of up to 11.7% after 60 months with a Nedbank Electronic Optimum Plus account. Anyone 55 and over can open one on the Money app in less than 2 minutes. Go to nedbank.co.za for more info. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So the President had to answer some questions at Parliament. There was a whole range of them. We've picked out two in this time that we've got allocated here. One, he spoke about the EFF leader Julius Malema's questions about South Africa's diplomatic stance on Israel.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Malema, no tla gabotse o bolela dintho tse botse se re di dirang. Yaanong o nahana hore we are reluctant and cowardish and all that. That is not so. The executive has noted, fully noted what the National Assembly took a resolution on. And we have said, as we have been asked, that this matter is being considered, and we're also considering the various broad issues around it. Our support for the cause of the Palestinians is irrevocable, and we have articulated that here from time to time. And the various other aspects of putting pressure on Israel to do what is right by and for the Palestinians are matters that are being considered, and a number of proposals have been put forward. So be rest assured, Honourable Malema, that these are matters that the executive is considering. Now, of course, being who you are, impatient, you want everything to be done yesterday. I know that, but it is a matter that is being considered in a very active manner, and in due course we will be able to articulate precisely what the executive's response is to the resolution that was taken by the National Assembly.
Right, and then the President, that is, he answered a question by the MK Party's Dr. John Tlhophe on, obviously, Phala Phala.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Hlophe has asked a variety of questions, and I did say in my head reply that this matter was dealt with by the National Assembly, and the National Assembly took a decision, and that decision is now subject of litigation in the Constitutional Court. And I would like to respectfully say we should allow that process to unfold. And it should be a matter that will be dealt with by that court. And the variety of other questions that the Honourable Member has asked were responded to in a variety of institutions that have dealt with this matter, and also dealt with the issue of either the President was conducting business or not, and all those issues were ventilated, and the information has been open to the public, either through court papers or reports that have been issued. So I'd like to submit that these matters have been addressed, responded to, and the other matter is subject to litigation in a very open and transparent manner through our judicial system. Thank you, Honourable House Chair.
Right, comments about President Ramaphosa and Dr. John Hlophe's thoughts as per today in Parliament, outside of Parliament. You can call in now. You can comment on some of the other big issues that we've covered here on the National Pulse. The Australians 125 for 4, and that's with 4 balls remaining in their innings. 125 for 4 in the T20 World Cup semi-final against the South African women. We'll get your calls after this.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, let's get to July. Hi, July.
How are you, Ashraf?
I'm very good indeed. Go ahead. What's your point?
Yeah, I want to reflect on what Dr. Hlophe has said today. You know, it's opening our eyes as ordinary South Africans.
Okay.
Look, if he's allowed to sit on a commission or a committee that decides on the salaries of judges, but the same judges and some powerful people are refusing him to sit in order to interview those judges. Is it making sense? And is there any law that prohibits him from interviewing them if he can sit in a committee that decides the salaries of judges?
Okay. Obviously, I can't answer that, but clearly at the moment he's not doing so. He's doing the interviews, but he's certainly not on the JSC, and you know exactly what has happened there. So what that means
point is this one of null prescription.
Yeah.
President Ramaphosa, he agreed that he kept the money. He advised Mr. Ndlovu not to deposit money, and it's foreign currency. So on its own, it's a crime. So if the National Public Prosecution Authority are saying it's null prescription, it's null prescription on what? There are laws for us ordinary persons and laws for powerful people.
Well, I think on that one there, they said they don't have sufficient evidence to get to see a reasonable case for conviction, which may surprise me and you. I'm just saying it may surprise you and me, but I know that's their workings. We'll see how that plays out. I don't think that story's over. Let's move on, July. Thank you for that call. Vuyiswa in Parktown, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Vuyiswa. Thank you.
Yes, how are you?
I'm good indeed. Go ahead.
Welcome back.
Much appreciated.
Yes, I'm referring to your conversation with Advocate Yasmin Suka.
Yeah.
I resonate a lot with that because I am a victim of a pirate church, having lost most of my family into the struggle. And what she said, some of us didn't even know there was a meeting yesterday, or a seminar, whatever she was referring to. We don't know, because there's no information that's filtering down to the victims of apartheid. And this also reminds me, because some of us are holding special pension numbers for mine is like 6 years old, because I came home late. And we are not being compensated for anything. When I was working for BBC World Service, I was in Brunei when one of the Sultan's coaches told me that they donated over $2 billion US dollars for the reparation and rehabilitation of former exiles and victims. I've been questioning this thing, some coming up with this. I've got my own information from one of the coaches of the Sultan of Brunei. But that money is not accounted for. So I don't know how this NGO is going to work, because any nation that does not take care of its former liberation fighters or victims, there's no success. There's not going to be success, because people are in tears.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, let's move on and say that I think, the conversation with Yasmin Sooka, you're right, was very concerning in terms of the points made. There's just so many people that have not been dealt with adequately in terms of compensation, in terms of emotional compensation as well, and the type of rehabilitation to families. And 30 years into democracy, I mean, that is a problem. In terms of that event that's been taking place, I must say many people did not know about it as well. I only found out about it quite by chance as well. So let's see what comes out of it, because I think something needs to change. For Yusra, thanks for that call. Appreciate it, right? The Australian inning has ended now, 134 for 5. 134 for 5. South Africa needs to score at a rate of 6.75, in fact, to win that World Cup semi-final. Is that score big enough, good enough? We'll have to find out. Stephen in Centurion, go ahead.
Yes, I'm disappointed in Hlophe, George Hlophe. Really, the example that he gives me, it's not like coming from the intelligence man, from the judge. He gave us a lousy example. He said that because he's deciding on the salary of the judges, therefore he must appoint them. That is just a low example. Look, man, the labor union sit when they discuss salaries of employees. But they don't employ them. They don't appoint them. They don't sit when employees are being interviewed. So what he gives us is not like it's not coming from the judge. Hey, these people. That's why he joined MK. That's why now I see the reason why he joined MK, because they're just the same there. So good luck for him there.
Well, there you are.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's why he joined MK. You see, people. It's amazing how the decisions we make, the choices we have, and how that gets played out, isn't it? Yeah. Let's play this.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. The political analyst you've just heard, wow, he is a breath of fresh air. It is the first time hearing from him. I haven't heard from him on SABC radio or TV. I haven't. It was actually my first time, but based on what I heard and his articulation, I think we can hear more from him. He can articulate things more clearly. I enjoyed his commentary. I hope to hear more from him going forward. Thank you so much. This is Luzuka in the Eastern Cape.
Thank you. I'm assuming you're talking about the conversation we had around street name changes. And if that was the case, then the guest you're referring to would be Jackie Shandu. Jackie Shandu spelled Shandu. Well, thank you for that feedback. It's noted, and I think Temba's probably going to say, I told you so, as I would expect, isn't it? Okay, let's get the news headlines. It's 5:30. Here's Greg House.
Quick look at the headlines. The MK Party's parliamentary leader John Hlophe has challenged President Ramaphosa to tell the truth about the transactions into the Phala Phala scandal. The NPA in the Eastern Cape has welcomed the sentencing of 4 more people linked to the Seven Angels Ministries Church. And Israel says DNA testing is underway to confirm if the person killed in a military operation in Gaza is the Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Omonda has a crash reported near Xavier Street. Kingsway Avenue westbound in Auckland Park has a crash reported at University Road. Main Road southbound in Loneal has a crash near Lachlan Road. Undeckers Road westbound in Horizon has a crash at Sonup Street, and the N14 northbound in Pretoria has delays towards the R101 interchange. In KZN, the N3 is queuing on the link to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction. The N3 eastbound has a stationary truck reported at Cliffdale. The N3 westbound in Camperdown has a stationary truck just before Mlaws Road. Sumiso and Kwanyana Road eastbound is slow moving towards Umgeni Road. Chris Hani Road westbound is queuing at the N2 highway, and Umgeni Road westbound queuing towards the N2 highway. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound has ramp closure with no access to Lower Church Street. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend. The N7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound slow moving towards Voortrekker Road. Strand Road eastbound in Bellville is queuing towards the R300 highway, and Main Road outbound in Observatory is slow moving towards the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Jimmy, let's talk football. No. Let's talk cricket. World Cup semi-final. Jimmy, do I have you there? In fact, all right, to me, I was going to joke with you to say let's talk football and expect you to say no, we're talking World Cup semi-final.
Here I am.
Right, go ahead.
I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead to me.
Alrighty, let's start off with what's happening at the World Cup, where the Proteas women are taking on Australia in the T20 semi-final. Just to keep you up to date with that, as you heard from Ashraf earlier on, Australia posted 134 for 5 in the 20 overs, with Kaka walking away with 2 wickets. And just to let us in on who top scored, it was Beth Mooney. So it's time for South Africa right now to reply, and hopefully they will win this one. And then moving on to rugby, Vodacom Bulls Director of Rugby, Jake White, has rotated several positions in his squad as the team said farewell to some of their Springboks ahead of their second Vodacom United Rugby Championship Tour match against Welsh side Scarlets tomorrow night, with Willie Leroux, Ruan Norkia and Gerard Steenkamp all returning home for part of their enforced rest period. Even David Creel's red card, even though David Creel's red card was overturned, he's not part of the team. Then Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gayton McKenzie, is still confident that an F1 race will be hosted in South Africa. There's been calls for an F1 return, including calls from Lewis Hamilton himself, and McKenzie says that the deal is almost sealed. In football, Kaizer Chiefs head coach Nasruddin Nabi says that the club's trusted attacker Gaston Sereno could be available for their next game in the Carling Knockout Last 16 match against SuperSport United on Saturday. Sereno missed this past weekend's friendly match against Marumo Gallants as he is recovering from an injury, and Nabi says his absence was hugely felt and he's hoping to have him available on Saturday night at the Peter Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane. In tennis, Carlos Alcaraz admitted that it would be a difficult moment facing idol Rafa Nadal when the Spanish superstars clash for the final time. Nadal announced last week that he will retire from tennis after the Davis Cup finals in Malaga next month. However, today, the 38-year-old will take on Alcaraz for a place in the final of the Six Kings Slam exhibition event in Riyadh. The Spanish pair played doubles together at the Paris Olympics this year, and they are expected to team up again at the Davis Cup finals. Then in motorsports, team's principal James Valls says that Williams are not out of the woods despite an upturn in form in recent races. Williams, who finished 7th in the Constructors' Championship in 2023, had a difficult start to the season, scoring points only twice in the first 15 Grand Prix. Their problems were a consequence of Valls' decision to break so many systems that had been in place at the team to try to improve their performance after years of underachievement. With that said, it is a wrap from my side. More on other sports tomorrow.
Thanks for that, Chummy. Maybe a rep from you. Let's hope it's not a rep for the South African cricket team in this World Cup. They must get to the finals.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge will be taking over the Western Cape. Join us for the 1 hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 25th of October 2024 at the SABC Cape Town M1 Studios, where the University of Cape Town will be taking on the University of the Western Cape in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. RSVP to info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's talk as we'll normally do around this time with Jimmy Moyaha. Jimmy, good chatting to you as always. So what's moving markets today?
Good evening, Ashraf. Good evening to our listeners. Today we're going to be taking a look at the state-owned entities. There's an interesting report put out by the Center for Development and Enterprise that suggests that state-owned entities could benefit from some competition in their respective industries. So we're going to speak to the CDE around that and try and understand what they mean by that. Then we've got a conversation with the team at PSG. They gave us their 6-month update for their half-year ended August. We're going to speak to the Chief Financial Officer at PSG and try and understand how they are faring at this stage. We've also got a conversation with Jumia Technologies, or the Jumia Group rather. They're listed in the on the New York Stock Exchange rather, and they happen to be the owners of a little-known platform called Zando that is closing down in South Africa. Zando's been in South Africa for the last 10 years. It's finally closing down, and we're going to speak to Jumia and see why it is they're closing down the platform and what it means for that business. And then we've also got a conversation as part of our SME Thursdays with a interesting SME that is taking a unique turn on oral hygiene. Freshmo Brands is a company that's homegrown, fully South African, and providing mouthwash that fits in your pocket. So we've got quite an interesting show lined up for the day. Before we get to that show, let's give a quick summary or a quick update on how the markets are faring at the moment. Still kind of a mixed bag from some of the Asian markets as they were trading first. All Asian markets, with the exception of Sydney, were in the red. All European markets were in the green, with the DAX and the FTSE up 0.75% in each case, and the CAC 40 in France more than 1.3% to the green there. US markets at the moment are also in the green ever so slightly. South African markets are in the green, and that was as a result of resources having a second blockbuster day in a row. 3.5% gains on resources today. Industrials down 0.6%, financials down 0.4%, but clearly with resources outperforming everybody else, it didn't seem to make much of a difference because the all share was up 0.2%, while the top 40 was up 0.3%. If we look at the performance of the rand at the moment, currently 17 rand 69 against the dollar, 23 rand 3 cents against the euro, and 19 rand and 17 cents against the 19 rand 17 cents against the euro, and 23 rand and 3 cents against the British pound. 1 Australian dollar will cost you 11 rand and 86 cents, and I'm happy to report that the gold price has reached new all-time highs again. As if we haven't done that enough this year. We are close to the $2,700 an ounce mark. We're at $2,695 an ounce at the moment. So by all accounts and all likelihood, will break $2,700 before the end of this year. Brent crude price $74.60 a barrel, and the price of platinum and palladium are both holding above $1,000. Platinum $1,012, palladium $1,048. Probably the reason why some of our resource counters had a really good day as well. A quick look at Bitcoin, that's climbing as well. $67,252 a coin there at the moment. It is down at the moment, but it is approaching 1.2 million rand for a Bitcoin. So those that are interested in the cryptocurrency have much to smile about at this stage.
To go, so as we always do with a masterclass, so discussion about the Springboks and their commercial rights just got me thinking about what is a trademark.
So interestingly enough, there is a lot of legislation around trademarks. You'd think that South Africa wouldn't have as much legislation around it, but there's actually a company that specializes in trademarks. There's a company called Adams & Adams that deals with trademark and copyright law. And essentially, from their perspective, they're the specialists, of course, a trademark is something that allows individuals regardless of whether it's individuals or businesses, the rights to certain things. So the technical definition for a trademark would be that it is it is part of intellectual property, and it is the intellectual property that individuals can register as long as it distinguishes their business from that of a competitor's business. So anything that you feel could be unique, whether it's a signature, whether it's a logo, whether it's a slogan, that could be something that is unique to your brand and your business, and you can trademark that so that other businesses in a similar industry, in the similar space, could not take that or use that. It extends to things like colors and shapes as well. So very interesting stuff there. I think I might just speak to the trademark experts and understand exactly what can be defined as a trademark or what it's limited to.
I think Jimmy Moya is a trademark, but let's leave it at that. Thanks for your time. You have a show coming up 6 to 7. Enjoy that. South Africa batting. Second over now. 4 without loss. 1.4 over, so 1 over and 4 balls, okay? Let's get some of the voice notes of some of the issues we've discussed.
Good afternoon, Ashraf Garda. My name is Elfas Ngoboye in KZN. According to Dr. John Hlophe, the so-called GNU is being led by the DA and not the ANC. I would like to hear the views of Panyaza Lesufi on this one. I'm enjoying the show as a neutral, Ashraf. Enjoy your evening.
Well, I'm glad that you're enjoying the show as a neutral. You reflect the national pulse in doing just that. Right, further thoughts on politicians?
Hey, Ashraf. So, I don't know what's going on. So, politicians are actually liars. I mean, Bini Simelane said a week ago that before she was even placed or deployed as a minister, or before she was deployed as a mayor, she had a conversation with Cyril and gave him a report regarding her loan with VBS. So Cyril today is responding to Parliament saying the report is like recent, that he is studying, or he's requested the report. That is so confusing. No, man, no. Thanks, it's Bongi here.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, politicians at the best of times, without even singling out names, they are very, very confusing, and they do confuse us, right? Let's get to some of the calls now. Solomon in KZN, hi.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Good afternoon, go for it.
You see, I think as a country, the least we can do to extend our moral support and solidarity to the people of Palestine is to recognize martyrs like Leila Khaled, who sacrificed and gave their life for the freedom and self-determination of the people of Palestine. Now, I think as a country, we cannot send soldiers, we cannot send any kind of material support, but I think moral support, because Palestinian people are undergoing similar conditions like we did as a country, facing a ruthless power like Israel.
But here's the question to you. So here's the question to you, and I know as I talk to you, there are many people in South Africa who are very, very supportive of the Palestinian issue. In fact, many people in terms of protests around the world are supportive, but there are also many others who are not, right? Having said that, in terms of what you talk about the moral support, we know the government, the ANC-led government, has certainly been supportive. You're saying it's the least they can do, but what I'm asking is a street name change in honor of a PLO leader the right thing to do, or can they do something else?
I think, though I'm not getting you well, but I think it is important for justice of the people of Palestine. I think when people say this is an offensive name, it is as offensive in the equal way as Hendrik Verwoerd was, D.F. Malan, and a whole host of names that we still keep even today. All we need to do is to tolerate each other and agree that there are going to be two sides of the coin on any matter. And on this one, Palestinian people are not alone. I think this is the least respect and contribution we can do to support their cause.
Okay, got that.
Freedom.
Thank you for that. And I'll still put this forward to say, in spite, I mean, we know the ANC's position on Palestine. I think it's well documented. The president said so again today, right, as a country. But is that the appropriate thing to do, to just have a street name change in honor of a Palestinian liberation fighter? Is that the way to do it, or can they do something different? I'd like to get your thoughts, if you have, on that.
Afternoon, Ashraf. On the issue of John Slope, look, it was the right decision to buy him from not to sit for the JSC, precisely because he has been impeached. And what he has been impeached for, to influence judges to be impartial, not to impose law, but to go with a certain individual at the expense of the law. And you want that person to be part of those people adjudicating who becomes the judge. No. Major from Guatemala.
Lots of people very puzzled by the pronouncements, again from two different people. The President Ramaphosa regarding Phala and the investigations, and then John Klope regarding, his role and the JSC and so much more. By the way, we'll chat to Ethel Williams as part of the feature we call Winning, because he has been named the Social Justice Champion of the Year by the Centre for Social Justice, and that happened last night. We'll talk to him in the next few minutes, in fact. Mike in Durban, hi.
Hello, Ashraf. Just my opinion, I think John Slope is fighting a revenge battle for Jacob Zuma. If you look at the MK party, there's nothing in the interest of the people of South Africa so far. And the other opinion I have is about the public protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane. I think, she's quit the EFF. I think because of all the litigation against her, she's got a heavy, huge bill to pay, and she has to be unemployed. Otherwise, she's going to have to face those bills. So she's got to probably, it's more about bankruptcy than, I don't think it's politics. She doesn't have a political arm, actually.
Are you saying that you'd expect her to want to be bankrupt so she doesn't have to pay the bills?
Well, that's, I don't think, she hasn't got any payment from anything so far. And how is she going to afford all of these? They're running into millions, probably.
All right, I hear that, but I mean, would you want to be declared bankrupt? I'm just puzzled.
Well, how else is she going to pay this?
All right, I mean, I hear you. Okay, let's see what happens. I mean, so much speculation about it. In fact, she said, maybe I should consider asylum. And I heard that conversation she's had, maybe asylum. Maybe. I don't know. Mike, thanks for that call. Right, I'll just check if there's any more voice notes. We've got a few more. And predictably, I mean, there's a couple more on Gayton, the conversation we had earlier on about him.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Tabo from Jamestown here. Ashraf, I'm giving the minister 10%. I'm giving the minister 10%. That is out of 100. It looks like he completely forgot that he's also the Minister of Arts and Culture, not just sports. Can somebody really remind him that the whole ministry that he is leading,
Okay, is the Minister of Arts and Culture too? Well, you've just reminded him, as Golden Miles Buru has said, someone must tell him to shut up, and he just told him that on air. We are a democracy, and we do this. There's more on Gayton McKenzie, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Tabo from Jamestown here. Ashraf, I'm giving the minister 10%. I'm giving the minister 10%.
All right, I think
that is out of.
Sorry, I think we played that one already. Let me just sort out another.
Ashraf, was the minister transparent before News 24 published that he spent that money or was he transparent after US 24 told us about the 800,000 spent?
Okay, just a significant wicket falling for South Africa. That means 25 now for 1. That's 4 overs gone, 1 ball, and the Aussies picking up their first scalp, and a significant one of that. Tasman Brits gone for 15. We'll chat to, I did mention we'll chat to a winner after this.
The Meeting Point with Koketso Sachane.
Should I test your Norwegian and say Guvelt?
Cookbelt, because
Oh wow, it's like that. That's what happens. 2 years. do you remember that? I'm getting ahead of myself in the conversation, but do you remember that life? Do you remember the 2 years spent in Norway?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge part of my life. You know, even that culture is a huge part of my life. I'm fluent in the language. I spent 13 years in Norway, so it's a huge part of my life.
Trumpeter, composer, and band leader Ndabendle Zulu.
Koketso Sachane on SAFM. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Although we should connect with Athol Williams in a moment. Remember, he's the winner. He's the Social Justice Champion of the Year, as per the Centre for Social Justice Awards event last night. We should connect with him. He's in England, of course, shortly. Here's another comment.
Hi, Ashraf. Did the police commissioner say that he is going to look for more arrests, including someone who actually is in the correctional services? Is it an official or is it an inmate? Whoa, it gets thicker and thicker. So it's remotely controlled from there if it is an inmate.
Okay, just help us with that one. Which story are you referring to specifically? I just don't quite get it. Maybe I've missed something here, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf Garda. My name is Elfas Ngovoye in KZN. You know, according to Dr. John Hlophe, the so-called GNU is being led by the DA and not the ANC. I would like to hear the views of Panyaza Lesufi on this one. I'm enjoying the show as a neutral, Ashraf. Enjoy your evening.
Well, thank you. There we are. Okay, we played that again. In fact, we've done that twice. My apologies for that. It's like Bafana. You mentioned them twice. Strange one. Let's get to, before we get to Athol Williams, some comments. AB's got a view. Hi, AB.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, go ahead, AB.
This lady, Lynn, who called in to the National Pulse, well, it seems that her pulse rate shot up in challenging you with the allegation that you did not take Miles Budu to task. Perhaps she was listening selectively or not at all. You know, the root of the problem is that some whites lament the passing of apartheid, and now many of them have enthusiastically embraced apartheid Israel, or perhaps one should label it genocidal Israel. The short story, Lynn, is that if you support Israel, you support apartheid and genocide, and therefore you are a racist and a bigot. Lynn picked on your religion. She should play the ball, not the man. As a presenter, you give a platform to callers to air their views, and it's a very difficult job because you have to maintain balance. And then you get people like Lynn who see red when their racist views are challenged. She probably referred to Professor Stephen Friedman and Ronnie Castles as self-hating Jews for standing up against Israel.
Okay. Maybe I got that. I mean, again, I would say this, yes, we must have a balance, and I have an opinion, of course, but it's how we present it on air that really matters. What I have privately is really my business. In terms of Lynn, I mean, you've made some points, and you're right about that. You know, she challenged me about not challenging another person, but on the other hand, you yourself also making a lot of assumptions about white racists and what have you. And I really don't want to say that the point is we can't just paint everybody, even if I don't agree with her, we can't just say, well, you're racist. But I can say that I think she was wrong about that, but there's lots of other issues. The reality also with regards to Israel, we know there are many people in this country who are supportive of the Israeli position, and there are many, many people who are supportive of the Palestinian issue. And the question is, how do we get them to even think along understanding each other? That is a big, big issue in the midst of clearly what many people believe is an absolute genocide in that part of the world. And I say many, and I mean, I don't have to quote myself on this one. One can just quote global sources on that issue. Avia, thank you for that. Okay, I think we're struggling to connect with our guest, which is a huge pity with Athol Williams. If not, we'll have to connect with him some other time. I just want to see if there's another comment that I can pick out on. There's one more. I just want to check if there's another voice note. Yeah, there's a couple more on Zimbabwe.
Hi, Ashraf, and hi to all the SFM listeners. Ashraf, can you also please open a Zim FM and expose those monsters who have been tormenting us for more than 2 decades? Here you can raise your point and nothing happens to you. Where I come from, you raise your head, tomorrow you're silenced. And can you also ask Malema, what's happening with the EFF? We're hoping that is going to open an EFF party in Zimbabwe, which was going to rescue us. Because no one in Zimbabwe now got the backbone to rise against the ruling party. Thanks, Tony, Cape Town.
Thanks for that, Tony. Zim FM. Now that's something. In terms of Malema, quite honestly, at this point, I think he's got some serious internal challenges. Not I think, it's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Hi, Ashraf. It's Joseph here from Randbeck. That guy who just called saying that Jos Hlophe is talking nonsense and making an example about the unions not sitting during the recruitment of employees. I mean, he's out of order because in line with Chapter 4 of the Labor Relations Act, unions form part of the recruitment process during the interviews, either as observers or as participating. In most of progressive organizations, the union do take part in interviews. Thank you.
Okay, got that. And here's another one on the MK party.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. You can just hear the mood there by the MK, the way they are laughing. Dr. John Hlophe making a mockery of the EFF and the so-called Progressive Caucus. I mean, you can just clearly hear that they are saying that they would be agitated if Busisiwe Mkhwebane was still with the EFF. Their intention was to get her to join MK. And that's what they are doing with all the EFF members. Whereas the EFF goes around Progressive Caucus. Ah, what a hogwash. Let them continue to perform cannibalism on each other, and only MK that is benefiting from that. Pimen and Kurman.
Okay, there we are. Here's another.
Hello, Ashraf Vusilushaba here in Durban. When President Zuma was sent to jail, a question was asked, what purpose does it serve to send an 8-year-old in the height of COVID in winter to jail? We asked the question of morality. The response was, the law is the law. The law needs to be respected. Today, we are, however, told that let's put the law aside and use morality. In the case of Dr. Hlophe, I call that hypocrisy. When it suits the narrative, it's the law. But when the shoe changes, it's morality. Thank you. Again, Vusilushaba, Durban.
Thank you, Vusilushaba. There we are. I'm just going to move on and not comment because there's just not enough time. Here's the last one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to your team. Great show always. Hi. Thanks for the great show the whole day. Good night. Take care. Drive safely. It's Uncle JJ, the truck driver.
Uncle JJ, you've given the equivalent of a lullaby when you say good night. So thanks for that lullaby. Let me tell you, Athol Williams, unfortunately, we should have been speaking to him, winner of the Social Justice Champion of the Year Award. Just been unable to connect with him. Hopefully we'll do that as soon as possible. South Africa, good start. 43-1 after 6 overs. 43-1 in that run chase against the Australians. 134 the Australians finished up with, right? So hopefully we can get that right. On a Friday we have what is called a fireside chat. And tomorrow's fireside chat would have 2 people. We don't always have that. And the reason is, because they're award winners in their own right. The professors, Salim Abdul Karim and Quraisha Abdul Karim. So both of them would be my guests in the Fireside Chat, the Friday Fireside Chat. But the show itself, the National Pulse, starts, as you know, 3 to 6. So we'll catch you then, right? Thank you for listening. It's 6 o'clock. Here's Greg Rose.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In this news update, Ramaphosa challenged over Phala-Phala and DNA testing to confirm Hamas leader's possible death. Good evening. The MK party